Alrighty, so Steven Sharif last week dropped 400 pages of court document, which was about 15 pages, and then exhibits. Now, I don't know, I'm not gonna question his lawyer because his lawyer attended Harvard Law. However, I would like to just, when this is all over, be able to ask the lawyer, how much of the driving did you do? And how much of the driving did Steven compel? Because if you remember last week, and the VOD is up that you can see it, it took me 6.5 hours to go through about the first 40 exhibits. And I know a judge would go through it faster. But the running joke is the first law of the courtroom is don't piss off the judge. 400 pages with a lot of it being pointless, where something like 36 exhibits in is the first exhibit you have, which is meaningful. Tell her to fix her Hancock, her signature's fine. That's a double L. I don't know where you see a J in that. Like, that's an L. This is a cursive J. This is a cursive L. What do you mean it's missing the bottoms? Well, yeah. That, her signature is a little weird. Her signature is definitely a little weird. You're right. It is missing. It is. It really is missing the bottoms, isn't it? Let me show this, because now that I look at it, you're kind of right. It is kind of missing. The bottoms of her L's. Yeah. Some people just do squiggly lines and call it their signature. I do. My signature, J, that's like a H and an L in there somewhere. Squiggles. But anyway, Steven Sharif last week covered dozens and dozens and dozens of pages, exhibits, statements, meaningless shit, all these nonsensical things. Well, now we've got the judge's response. Is the most compelling thing in the exhibits that unhinged Aaron email? I wouldn't say that bodes well for Steven then. Well, remember that unhinged Aaron email is a good thing for Steven, except Steven went 9 different directions with his filing last week. Like, first of all, Steven quit. I don't think Steven was a salaried employee after Robert Dawson took over. The Bartels email is a really bad email, but it has absolutely nothing to do with Steven's lawsuit. Like, I've lost the narrative on what it is Steven is even asking for. Let me bring up Steven's original lawsuit, and I think that's a good place to start. Lawsuit stuff. Sharif versus Dawson. Oh, I don't have the, what the fuck? I don't have that one in here. Where the fuck do I have the original report? Shit. That's Jason Karamanis's motion to seal. Yeah, that's the motion to seal. I don't have the original. Is this the original one? And for his view of the world to be real, I guess. Okay, so this is Steven's original lawsuit. There's just shit's coming out so often. So here's Steven's original complaint. Usually right about in this section right here, it would tell you what the shit the lawsuit is about. It doesn't say, like, I am Steven Sharif, the nature of the action. This lawsuit seeks to stop Intrepid's rogue board of directors from intentionally destroying the company, including through layoffs of its nearly entire workforce, through manufactured crises, and through bad-faith foreclosures on secured loans. Okay, well, if that's the only thing you're trying to do, I don't see now why the judge doesn't dismiss this case, because so this is originally what he wants. Let me go to the very last page. An order enjoining defendants from accessing, using, or selling company trade secrets. Well, that's not going to happen. Yeah, there was a ruling yesterday. Voidance of any corporate acts taken in violation of fiduciary duties. Compensatory damages and the amount to be proven at trial. Consequential damage, punitive damages. An order requiring the company to adopt and implement appropriate corporate governance, compliance, and oversight reforms, including removal of the board of directors, enhanced board-level oversight, revised policies governing risk management. Yeah, none of that is going to happen, Stephen, because the courts can't give you this. Stephen is trying to undo his own bad deals with the court. And last week we looked at 400 pages of documents. Yes, maybe Rob Dawson intimidated you. Maybe Rob Dawson sent his jawbreaker to threaten to break your jaw. But at the end of the day, you don't own Intrepid anymore. It's like I say to people, the moment you don't own 50% plus one vote of your company, unless your shareholder agreement gives you specific rights and protections like extra voting right, non-dilutable voting privileges, pro-right voting privilege, guaranteed profit sharing. You can get marginalized and minimalized right out of a company if the shareholder agreement doesn't protect you. And in this case, I don't think Stephen has set up anything in a accessible way. What proof could he even provide to get punitive damages for a company that he only has 5% in, like the guy that has like 80? Well, what he could do is he could say, through coercion, force, and intimidation, he watered down my position. And so, because he previously forced me to sign a valuation of $265 million. So 265 times 0.044. Your Honor, because I've been forced out of the company through threats, coercion, I would like, because his own statements show he personally wanted me to value the company at $265 million. I would like him to pay me $11.66 million, forcibly buying out my share, and then he can do whatever he wants with it. But the thing is, Robert Dawson's going to say, I can do whatever I want with it anyway because I'm the majority shareholder. Stephen's belief is by him giving up equity control of Intrepid, that was one for one him investing in Intrepid, and no, it is not. Yeah, it's not even a good or coherent narrative. You wouldn't trust Steven to own a mop bucket from a third shift Dairy Queen. Yeah, I wouldn't either. When you said Jawbreakers, it reminded me of Ed, and Eddie. Coincidentally, Jason, Rob, and Steven. The Reddit post that said Rob is using bots to tear down Steven online gave me a good chuckle. What I have to say is this. Steven Sharif, there are enough fucking people who hate you. Robert Dawson doesn't have to pay me to talk about you. Because the truth is an ultimate defense, and I'm only telling the truth about you. Steven said I was the one masquerading the truth. And that pissed me off. And then when all this came out, I reached out to the man to said, are you safe? He led me to believe that Robert Dawson and Jason Karamanis are dangerous individuals. Jason has been nothing but cordial with me and our correspondence. I understand why Jason might act the way he does. I don't condone it. I don't forgive it, but it's not directed at me. If I was down over $12 million on your bullshit, I might threaten to break your jaw too. Know what I'm saying? But Steven's making it out to be all those acts somehow get him back intrepid. Let's take a look at what came out yesterday. And of course, I'll take your questions. If anybody has a question, I'll take those questions. And then the other part of this is me refining a piece that I owe somebody. Could Steven be telling the truth? No. What Steven has to realize is, in any story, you have a spectrum. You have your side, they have their side, and somewhere in the middle is usually the truth. The problem is Steven believes, clutches his pearls, hoping that his staff is on his side. The majority of the staff hates Steven's guts. The majority of the staff has already said they will not work for the board. They will not work for Steven. The majority of, you got to remember, these people's careers, some of these people have 9 years at Intrepid Studios and they have a steaming turd right on the top of their resume. Not that always is a bad thing, but if you had to choose between two equal candidates for a job, do you want to hire the person who wasn't cognitively aware or perceptive enough that the company was falling around them? I'm just going to make up a name so I don't get my ass sued off. Bob Smith works at Intrepid, and he's a senior engineer. And Jalan works at ZeniMax as an engineer. And you're both trying to get employed at this new company. And they're going to look at it and they're going to say, how the fuck did Bob Smith be so unaware of what was going on? You know what? Let's just go with Jalan. The candidates are so close anyway. Let's just go with the guy who wasn't standing in a burning building and who didn't recognize it. So you've got Steven's story, you've got the board's story. Generally, somewhere here is the truth, except the ex-employees are putting data points on the line, right? And when they're putting these data points in the line, the truth really does start to seem like it's closer to the board's story. And I'm not saying that makes the board good fucking people. This Aaron Bartel guy probably is going to find himself with his jaw broken one day, because if he's going to talk like that in a text message about fucking over employees, these are the bottom performers. Aaron seems like a guy who's never been punched in the face. Any truth Steven tells is negated by all the other lies. Yeah. If the staff had the funds or means to sue Steven, they would be. They are suing Steven. That's what I think the really important thing is. The staff is suing Steven Sharif. The staff is suing the board of directors. The staff is suing people by name. That they are absolutely doing those things. As far as hearing from any of the employees, it's very difficult to hear from the employees because the employees signed NDAs. No, Nex, you're absolutely wrong. Let me stop you with that. NDAs mean everything. And I don't know where you got the idea that NDAs don't mean as much as you think they do. NDAs, if you breach your NDA, you can be sued. Period. You can get brought into it. NDAs are highly enforceable, especially in tech, especially in California. Right? The difference is you can always go to the Department of Justice. You can always go to the labor board. As long as you're going to an enforcement agency, your NDA, you cannot be silenced by an NDA if you're reporting a violation of the law. But as far as the individuals that are speaking to me about the tech debt, they're not supposed to be telling me that stuff. But I can't be compelled to turn their names over. I mean, I operate as a member of the Free Press. That is a source. I would tell the judge, but I would tell the judge in chambers, off the record. Yeah, and the other problem is, if you break your NDA, then nobody else will ever hire you again. Even if you didn't get any legal consequences, if you outright break your NDA, no company will ever hire you if they deal with trade secrets. If Steven and them want to fuck around with people's livelihood, I hope they can take everything they can. And the truth is, as we get through some of this other stuff today, Steven and John are open up to all sorts of civil litigation. Steven and John, because some of the loans Intrepid has are personally guaranteed by Steven or John, those loans can be called by those people. Jason Karamanis and Karen both have loans that are backed by Steven. But as far as the list of who's getting sued in the class action lawsuit, so you've got Jacob and Zachary are suing Intrepid Studios, Ryan Ogden, Aaron Bartels, Teresa Fett, Robert Dawson, TFE Games Holdings, and Steven Sharif. Let's see. If you have multiple companies and you pierce the corporate veil with one of them, does that expose all of them or just you personally? If you have multiple companies and you pierce the corporate veil, it commingles the one entity you pierced with your personal assets. However, it more likely rather than less likely lowers the threshold for piercing your other liability veils. Because what they're going to say is, well, you already commingled over here. You already commingled over here. What you're claiming as an honest mistake over here, we no longer give you the benefit of the doubt that this is an honest mistake. This court will be forever, or someone's going to say, fuck this man. This court case is going to go on forever because this court case has to get adjudicated so Jason's court case can get adjudicated, so Robert Dawson's court case can get adjudicated. But honestly, the Nevada case probably doesn't have to get adjudicated. Once you get rulings from the other courts, I imagine Dawson will just be able to withdraw his Nevada case because he'll get a court order from the California court. In fact, when we get there, you're going to see the judges pretty much already foreshadowed what the judge's ruling is going to be. But yeah, so you've got, these are all your defendants in this class action suit. Steven, TFE, Robert Dawson, Teresa Fett, Aaron Bartels, Ryan Ogden, Intrepid Studios. So, did Steven break any laws? Yes, very likely, yes. Very likely, yes. But remember, in order for me to say yes cleanly, number one, he has to be accused. of breaking a law, and he has to be convicted. It appears so. In my personal opinion, he committed numerous counts of fraud, numerous counts of wire fraud. How does the Nevada have jurisdiction? I kind of thought that one was in Steven's favor. Well, because Steven is listed as a manager on a Nevada business. And Steven fucked himself on that because he said in an email, I demand that your records be correct. But he then said, my mom listed me as an officer of her company. So then where is your letter to your mother demanding she make her records correct? See, Steven's problem is, and it will always be, and this is me, I've been saying this for years. Steven's problem is he believes he's the smartest person in the room. The smartest people in the room never think they're the smartest people in the room. The smartest people in the room are always wondering who's the smartest person in the room. And when you can't figure it out, that's when the person's like, oh shit, I guess it must be me. Yeah, well, it doesn't necessarily open him up to the lawsuit. What it does is it opens it up to the discussion of jurisdiction. Now, did Steven routinely go to Vegas? Yes. Did he routinely conduct business in Vegas? Yes. Did he bring employees down to Vegas? Yes. Does he have a business down in Vegas? Yes. Well, did he meet with Robert Dawson in Nevada? Yes. Did he get a bunch of investors from Nevada? Yes. Well, now you've got a problem where if you're going down to Vegas to conduct business, then the Nevada court might say, we do decide that we have jurisdiction. We do decide you conducted enough business that we're going to say, yeah, we do. Jason also said Steven did some work for Intrepid in Nevada and solicited an investor there. Right. If you solicit an investor, did you go over the motion to shorten time for receiver? No, I'm trying to get there. But I always give the audience, I work through their questions because that's who the show is for. It's for you guys. All right. So that's not what I want. So as we saw, and this wasn't supposed to be today's show. Today's show was supposed to be something else, but Steven had submitted, yeah, I'm going to try to frame some souls on Thursday now. Steven Sharif versus all these people. On the 14th of April, plaintiff filed an ex parte motion for an order shortening the time in the plaintiff's motion for a receiver. A party may, for good cause, file an ex parte application requesting that the court expedite a motion hearing. To show good cause, evidence must show that the moving party's cause will be irreparably prejudiced if the underlying motion is heard according to regular motioned procedures. And it must be established that the moving party is without fault in creating the crisis that requires the relief, or that the crisis occurred as a result of excusable neglect. Plaintiff contends that the motion for a receiver must be heard on an expedited basis because of the defendant's intent to conduct an imminent Article 9 sale. Plaintiff alleges that irreparable harm is at stake because there are serious questions about the validity of the secured debt upon which the defendant Dawson and defendant TFE originally foreclosed. In view of Mr. Dawson's consistent shifting of his debt to equity and backed up again through fast and loose documentation, and the validity of secured debt upon which defendant Dawson and defendant TFE plan to foreclose, in view of their purported unwinding of original foreclosure not with the original liens. Okay, if Steven had been smart, or his lawyers had been smart, they wouldn't have submitted 400 pages of shit. They would have simply submitted, Dawson unwound his debts on this date. The lien should have been discharged on that date. They didn't discharge the lien. The argument that they need to make is that Dawson isn't the next in line to do the foreclosure. Jason Karamanis is. If Dawson converted his debt to equity and all of his loans were closed, that is, there was no more credit on any of those extended loans, then the lien would have been improper. It would have been stale, and it should have been discharged. However, Stephen did not include a copy of a certified letter sent to Dawson asking why the liens have not yet been discharged. John Moore did not sign a letter saying, why have you not discharged your lien? Also, Stephen conveniently, quote, conveniently, didn't submit all the paperwork because all of the paperwork Stephen submitted doesn't get the loan amount up to 80 million. Which means any one of those documents that Stephen didn't submit could have the same thing that Jason Karamanis' original Yaya Legacy Trust loan had that said, we're offering you $1 million at 20% APR, and you will also have the ability to request up to an additional $1 million. If any of the Dawson loans have that in it, that you can request, then the lien remains valid because the loans remain open. The loans are fresh. They are not stale. They don't have to be discharged. So Stephen didn't, or his lawyer didn't prove that. Plaintiff also claims there are serious questions about the defendant's general ability to act in the interest of Intrepid as fiduciaries, given their historic disregard for their fiduciary duties. Now, this is a really bold statement for Stephen to make, considering how bad the books are. Now, again, the ledger is a ledger. It is a ledger that has been provided by an individual authorized to provide it. Stephen's trying to make it sound like this ledger that's been provided is completely false, completely fake. I vetted it. It looks real. It looks like it. If it's a fake, it's a great fake. Because if somebody doctored it, they doctored it to the penny. To the penny. That would be difficult to do. Now, it wouldn't be difficult to go in and start changing expenses, but then that would mean Ryan Ogden would be like, hey, come arrest me and put me in jail. I don't think Ryan Ogden went back and started making fraudulent entries. He doesn't want to go to jail. The court does not find plaintiff has produced evidence showing the plaintiff's cause will be irreparably prejudiced if the underlying motion is heard according to the regular schedule. The validity of the secured debt upon which the defendant Dawson and TFE foreclosed are not addressed in the attached declaration. They are, but the problem is you made it equally weighted in 15 pages. Those who cook the books generally have a second set of books that highlights the fraud. Sure, but Enron is a little bit of a different story. Enron isn't a situation where they're trying to pin it all on one person. Furthermore, plaintiff's complaint does not question the validity of Dawson's junior secured lien. Both parties also acknowledge that the Article 9 foreclosure sale has not been scheduled yet, due in parts to delays in gathering Intrepid's assets. Finally, plaintiff claims concerning defendant's alleged disregard of the fiduciary duties, while important to the consideration of whether a receiver is appropriate, does not provide a good cause for an expedited hearing schedule when the sale has not been scheduled. Accordingly, the court denies the plaintiff's motion for an order shortening time for plaintiff's motion for receiver. The motion for receiver was filed on April 14th, and the court sets a hearing date of May 19th, pursuant to the undersigned civil chamber rules. Per chamber rules, no oral arguments will be held unless separately ordered by the court. Additionally, without making any findings on the merit of the plaintiff's motion for receiver, the court orders the parties to further meet and confer in person or by video conference on the issue of a receiver on or before April 27th, in a good faith effort to resolve this as expeditiously as possible. If, for instance, the parties can reach a compromise on the role of a potential receiver, for example, to oversee an Article 9 sale, this would be more efficient for the parties and the court. The parties may reach out to the court if they feel a magistrate judge could provide assistance in that regard. She's telling them, without saying it, because without any findings of the merits of the plaintiff's motion, to oversee an Article 9 sale. The judge is telling you how the judge plans on ruling in the future. The judge is literally telling you here they have the right to do the Article 9 sale. They just have to, 1, do it legally, 2, do it in a commercially viable way. I noticed that Steven didn't do a fucking victory lap. I didn't see after I got back. My favorite stir fry place is closing. So I went there for one last hurrah. I noticed Steven didn't do a victory lap yesterday. He did do a little bit of a redirect, which was good because what you see Steven loses his temper a little bit. Go rage elsewhere. But what Steven dropped yesterday was, which he should have dropped as soon as DA dropped his bullshit, Steven should have dropped his. So there's part of it. So DA doctored some stuff. But there's no one for one that Steven was unbanning DA when he was banning gold. But what shocks the shit out of me is, why did you wait so long to do that? Steven then said, in response to this, even if Steven wins and gets total control of the game, there's still an outstanding debt. Now, even assuming the debt gets wiped away in the court somehow, let's say the board is forced to pay in full. That still leaves the project with no funding and zero trust for new backers to buy in. If you read our latest exhibit-rich filing, that debt was put back onto the company after taking control by Dawson and Karamanis, in furtherance of their foreclosure scheme. Dude, you didn't answer the fucking question. What are you going to do about $124 million of debt? What are you going to do? You have to, all those people, even in the best case scenario for Steven, the very best case scenario, Intrepid Studios is given fully back to Steven, right? But then immediately, these people all just foreclose on, or they all exercise their conversion rights again, and Steven ends up with 4.4% of the company again. Steven's under this delusion that there's a happy ending where he gets to keep the company and keep the money. I actually feel a little bad for John. It seems like Steven was using him to shield himself. Do we have any documentation they are legally married? We don't have any documentation that they're legally married, but marriage records are normally not truly public. I mean, we've seen their wedding reception, but I don't have a marriage certificate. I do feel bad for John Moore, though, because John Moore is... You sent in a request to the San Diego County Clerk's office. There you go. John Moore is listed on numerous other companies. John Moore, we can't find him listed in any CPA database. As I said in the other video I did, CPAs CPAs must be certified. They must be registered. They're like lawyers. You can't call yourself a CPA unless you are in fact a certified public accountant. I'd feel more bad if the QuickBooks didn't suck ass. If that ledger is really the ledger, if that ledger is authentic to the numbers, then he's screwed. If they are presenting it publicly as if they are married, does it even matter if they are legally married? Wasn't there a rule about appearance of marriage? Yeah, there are rules about appearance of marriage, but you don't get the protections under the law. For example, if they're legally married, they cannot be compelled to testify against each other. It's spousal privilege. So his dream is he will get the company back, have everyone else pay off the debt, and then anyone in the right mind will still trust him anyway to give him money to do anything. Here's the really sad part, ladies and gentlemen. Steven still is surrounded by a bunch of sycophant supporters who are blindly supporting him. Like, if there was only one thing brought up that was looked bad for Steven, okay, that'd be one thing. If there was two, if there was three. But we're talking about 10, 15, 20, 25 different things that have been brought up. One of the biggest ones is that every one of those live streams created more tech debt than they did create usable products. This has been confirmed to me by a person from Intrepid. Steven was constantly chasing popularity. Number one, the Alpha 1 map was never going to be the map that carried over into Alpha 2. Alpha 1 was just a really big fake it till you make it. It was a proof of concept. That map was never going to happen. Steven expanded the world by 3 times because as they had the computer build up the nodes, you could see one node from another node because they were so graphically large. Did they stop and work on that? No. They bounced around system to system to system to system. And if you remember, 5 years ago, I said, just go dark for 90 days. Just say, hey, yes, we said we were going to be as transparent as possible, but we're going to go hard. We're going to go balls to the wall for 90 days. We're going to iterate. We're going to button up systems. And then we're going to show you what we have. And that would have given the staff time to actually finish systems and not leave them in tech debt. There were people that left Intrepid after fighting with Steven because all they wanted to do was build the game. They didn't want to build any more dog and pony shows. They just wanted to build the game. I never understood why Intrepid didn't work to create a singular node from tier 1 to 5, focus on one thing, and then work on expanding that across the map. Because then, what would have happened there is that you would have had the first ripple in confidence. Because when I was bringing it up and smaller creators were bringing it up, it was easy to ostracize those people from the community. Because everybody was caught up in a hive mind mentality. The moment you stop doing the next new thing every month, it gives people time to question. Was the staff really just working on a month-to-month live stream presentation Steven demanded? Yeah, for the most part. For the most part, everything was in disarray because thousands of man hours were burned on the vertical slices. The other thing that Steven has stated was that all the meetings inside of Intrepid were recorded. So the funny part is, somebody said, regardless of all the lawsuit stuff, Steven still slowed Ashes of Creation development way down. All meetings in Intrepid were required to be recorded. You will see this is not true. Dude, I've talked to the people that were in those meetings, and they've all said, yes, it is going to be true. Steven was slowing down development because he was constantly every month taking the company in new directions. What do you expect was going to happen? So, players saw the scope was as vast as an ocean, but didn't realize it was as deep as a puddle. Yes. I wonder if the transcripts will be made public. So what people have to realize is evidence in a trial is normally not made public. Discovery won't be made public. I keep hearing people say, I can't wait till discovery. Why? It's not going to go to you. Remember, discovery goes between the lawyers. It's not a exhibit until I introduce it in court. And generally, all of the court exhibits aren't publicly accessible. And even if they are, all the juicy ones will be redacted anyway. Steven has so many times said support was truth and that the evidence will support that, and it turns out it will not be true. You're right. What's going to happen is Steven is going to find out you can't control the narrative. Where Steven says, just trust the filings. Then why are you redacting them? Why did you redact the Riot Games email? Why did you redact the capitalization table? Because what he doesn't want is he doesn't want outsiders being able to analyze it. It's like an alternative, an alternative theory now to Steven's health issue.
The whole United States of America,
remember,
including me.
Steven talked about how the stress he was under, because of the stress he was under, he ended up hospitalized.
Look at this.
Well, maybe there's an alternative, Steven, for why you were hospitalized. Maybe.
Look at this. How much did you spend on DoorDash for business meetings?
Oh no. Oh no. The wrong one.
Look at this. How much did you spend on DoorDash for business meetings? And now you need Popeyes? No wonder why you nearly died. Your diet was terrible.
That's all. That's it. That's it. I just did Dawson's lawyers their work for him. Steven says, oh, I was under all this stress. I was under all this stress, and that's why
Look at this.
I went into organ failure.
Look at this. How much?
Well, how much are you spending on business meal? How much food are you eating every day? Yeah, ice cream, right? You're buying all the ice cream out of an ice cream truck. You got van candy. Not trying to be a dickhead to you here, but if you remember, I used to say to Steven, when are you going to do some cardio? You're a diabetic who eats like shit and you wonder why you're an organ failure? I wonder. You lost vision in your right eye. Interesting. I have that problem going on because I have idiopathic non-diabetic small cluster neuropathy. This whole thing is just, it irks me. Now, as far as the other part of today's show, somebody cashed in 50,000 Paradox points. So I've got some start to this, and I'm gonna live build some of this. First question a person asked me was, what's going to happen to the employees who never receive the proper warn notice? Will they hopefully be able to receive any financial payout through the legal process? So, first of all, what really sucks for Steven and anybody else who resigned, like Midori, the team leads, Steven, they're fucked. In order for them to get any severance, in order for them to get consideration for pay, they need to then now make the argument that the warn notice should have been issued on 27 December. There is one class action suit in progress, which I've shown, and that is this one. I think it's this one. Yep, it's this one. I'll link this everywhere. So this is the class action lawsuit against Intrepid Studios, but they're not exactly moving their asses. Intrepid did have some general liability insurance. Those policies generally do not cover warn notices. They may or may not have had EPLI, which is Employment Practices Liability Insurance. EPLI policies generally exclude wage and hourly claims. Warn violations are predictable decisions. Wages are considered a core business obligation. Insurance doesn't cover you for things 100% in your control. Unfortunately, what's going to happen with the employees? If the ledger is accurate, Intrepid was more than $300,000 in the red. Now, there is a way for the unpaid wages to become a priority creditor, but that requires a lien, and it has not been filed. So I'm a little confused as to what the law firm that's handling the class action lawsuit is doing, because I would have figured by now they would have gotten the California Labor Board to issue a lien and then called for an emergency hearing to have that lien prioritized to just under the bank. But that leaves us with, appreciate the follow. That leaves us with a whole other issue. And that whole other issue is this. In an Article 9 foreclosure, Jason Karamanis can bid his due. So he's due $80 million. That means it is almost unlikely, it is almost impossible for the asset to go anywhere but to TFE. And he doesn't have to provide any money to Intrepid for that. Robert Dawson is owed money. TFE has the lien. TFE is going to foreclose, and then they'll bid what they're owed. And then if there were to be any cash, which there won't be, it would go to Robert Dawson. Steven has cocked this whole thing up to an unbelievable level. The board with Steven is listed as defendants. That's why Steven has this belief that he's fighting for the employees. Steven, the employees are suing your ass. Now, the employees there is one ray of light that could happen for the employees. And again, I don't see the law firm that's processing this really getting the lead out of their ass to do it. What the class action lawsuit could attempt to do is use that Aaron Bartel's email or text message that I've shown and the Robert Dawson text message that I've shown. What they could do is they could attempt to introduce this as a moment in time of insolvency. The class action lawyers could say, you knew on Saturday, December 27th, that you were insolvent because you began speaking with an attorney to handle the Article 9 foreclosure. And because you did that, immediately following this event should have been warn notices. And the counter argument that will be made is that if we had issued the warn notice, then we would have never gotten any funding from Valve. But the problem is you claimed you had an $800,000 per week burn rate. And if we take 75% of that and we times that by 8, you getting $4.8 million from Valve is right around the right amount of money you need to get if you had no other expenses. But you had other expenses. So your Steam sales did not exceed your known liability for the next 60 days. And because you knew you didn't have payroll for the next 60 days, you should have issued a warrant on this date. Immediately after this phone call, you should have issued the warrant notice. Because you strung those employees along for another 33 days, the argument could be made by the class action lawyers that the board of directors and not Intrepid Studios Incorporated assumed the role of employers because they willfully failed to issue a warn notice when they were already taking steps to mitigate insolvency. In that regard, the board members would, in total, become liable for about $11.3 million in liabilities. That's payroll, benefits, PTO, 401k, and the warn penalties. I'm sure that the Department of Labor would be willing to waive the warn penalties if the employees would get paid. I'm not 100% sure, but the Department of Labor usually wants to get people paid. If it's a matter of penalizing people and getting people paid or just getting people paid, they'll generally allow the people to get paid. The next question somebody had asked me was, and I'll put this together as a YouTube, can you come up with any rational reasons why Steven would have agreed to financing terms that in hindsight seem so ill-advised? Fuck no. Fuck no. There is, so $1 million at a 20% loan means you owe $1.2 million in a year. That's where, if you remember, I said whenever you go to start a business, you need to consult 3 people. You need to consult a lawyer, is what I'm doing legal. You need to consult an accountant. How am I going to do what I'm going to do? And you need to consult a marketing a marketing person who can gauge public perception, tell you if there's even a market for your product. Well, a marketing person would have told you, fuck yeah, there's a market for an MMORPG. Absolutely. But the accountant would have looked at you and said, you want to take a 20% loan on $1 million? 20% loan is what you take on 800,000 when you have a liquidity problem and you're only going to have that loan for a week and it doesn't have a prepayment penalty. Also, some of the loans offered to Intrepid had early buyout penalties. So that means the moment you take the $1 million, you owe 1.2 back, regardless of if you hold the loan for a week or a month or a year. Also, there is zero, as I said on the other show, there is zero reason to ever backdate and anything. You never ever backdate. Backdating. And what Steven is accusing Robert Dawson et al. Of not adhering to their fiduciary duty. But remember, Steven has to testify to these things in court, which means Steven is going to be under cross-examination. And I don't think I truly do not believe Steven's itty-bitty tiny brain has caught up with the idea that all the things you've said in all these documents, you have to testify to in court. And you're going to get crushed on cross. your lawyer is going to feed you a bunch of prompt questions so that you can talk about why you think Ryan Ogden and Robert Dawson didn't have fiduciary duty to Intrepid. Now explain your Warhammer models and your Magic the Gathering cards and taking the whole staff to Vegas when you were in the red, and the loans that you took, and the loans that were authorized to your spouse, and the loans authorized to your mom. Cross-examination. Okay, so if you're the plaintiff, you go first. You put on your witness. You ask your witness questions. Your witness answers them. Cross-examination is done by the opposing party to try to discredit what you've said. Then the original sign has redirect. Then back and forth until finally there's a time the plaintiff doesn't do redirect. And then we're done questioning this witness. So cross is hostile. What you can get away with on cross is a little bit more lenient, because when you're on cross, you're trying to discredit. And then again, remember, Stephen's case has to meet prima facie. So for those of you that don't know how a court case goes, it goes like this. The case is called, you've got opening statements by the plaintiff and the defense. Now, P can also be prosecutor if this is a criminal case. Now, interestingly enough, the defendant has an audible they can call here. The defendant does not have to give their opening statement at this time. They can wait until after the plaintiff's case is put on. Most of them do not, because it's better for them to lay out an ulterior view right at the beginning. Then the plaintiff makes their case. The defendant gets cross. And then something really, really happens here when the plaintiff rests. There's this moment in time right here where the defense can say, well, Your Honor, that's great, but they've rested and they didn't meet the prima facie of their case. They haven't, to the letter of the law, met criteria. And it's at this point in a criminal case, charges can get dropped. It's in a civil case, parts of the claim can get dismissed with prejudice. You're like, look, you had your shot, you failed to prove some stuff, you rested, they brought it up, you don't get to go back. And then the defense does their thing, cross, closing statements, jury instructions, jury deliberation, jury returns, judge presides, da-da-da. Maybe the Magic the Gathering cards were research into how to navigate a trial. There's quite a lot of steps here. Maybe. And the Magic cards could have, for all we know, Stephen's going to pull out a box and he's going to say, these are the multiple meetings that I had with team members about making a Ashes of Creation collectible card game. The judge's statements from yesterday make me feel like she's leaning towards the fact that Stephen hasn't shown enough to meet that. Well, yeah, if he hasn't shown enough to meet it ex parte, on an emergency acceleration, that's pretty much saying what you have here doesn't meet. And when you see the judge say, get a receiver to do this Article 9 sale, that's the judge basically saying, I'm not blocking the sale. So, especially during COVID, when it seemed like everyone was throwing money into the games industry, it's hard to believe Intrepid could only resort to the financing that it received. I do not know, because I only know what one document shows me. To me, all of my opinions on their financials are based on the ledger. It looks like they were average daily balance stacking. it looks like, from what I can tell of the QuickBooks story, they were deliberately moving money, funneling money into accounts to, number one, stay ahead of bank fees. Number two, secure more loans by having their books look good. And all of that is going to come out. All of that. John Moore is... I don't see how Steven is going to get a lot of financial stuff introduced. Or Steven's side. I don't see how they're going to get a lot of this financial stuff introduced without bringing John Moore. Because remember, in California and Illinois, because it's the state my corporation's in, you're required by law, not by preference. You are required by law to have 3 specifically named individuals. You must have the chief executive. You must name a chief executive. It can be CEO. I happen to use the title of director, because I think CEO for a small corporation is pretentious. It can be president. It could be, whatever. But you can't start mixing lines. There are terms that you can use for the chief executive. You also have to have a chief financial officer. John Moore is listed as the chief financial officer. He's the one who formed the company. I don't see how Steven is going to be able to testify without Dawson's lawyer saying, objection, Your Honor, he didn't serve as the CFO. And then they're going to keep trying to bring in, and Dawson's lawyers are just going to be like, objection. Not in evidence. You're trying to insert financial money in through the CEO when you know by law you have to have a CFO appointed. Because John's fucked. If John's not a CPA, he's fucked. Because he listed himself as a CPA, so that's a level of fraud. Investors who aren't family, friends, or unfamiliar with the game industry will not be beneficial to Steven. You're right. Certified public accountant. It also makes me wonder how many people Steven went to for funding who demanded to look at the books and thus were never involved. He seems to have only been able to secure this with people who either didn't know about the industry or just took his word on the face. Yeah, as I've said, I've invested in people's businesses from years ago when my friends were starting up their individual, like the pizzeria. I got a check every year as the owner's draw, because over the years, and I was finally like, do you guys just want to buy me the fuck out? Because you guys have given me more in owner's draws than my original investment. And they're like, yeah, why don't we just buy you out? I'm like, yeah, it makes a lot of fucking sense. They're like, well, can we just have the shares back because we've given you more? No, that's not how business works. Because if you had gone out of business, I'd be out my investment. Now we did it for pennies on the dollar. But I don't think Steven knows how to balance a checkbook. Like, I haven't seen anything about this man that lends any credibility to him having any financial acumen. But why were you getting loans at 20%? Because you thought the game was going to be $1 billion idea. Steven didn't think he would go broke. Now that the books have been revealed, will Steven or John have to explain to a judge what some or all of the purchases were for? No, not specifically. Number one, you never answer to a judge per se. The IRS, absolutely. I know the IRS is coming for Steven and John. I know this. Because I told them. Because fuck John and fuck Steven. If you're gonna say we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure the employees get paid, well, so will I. As I've already said on my show, I've already submitted a write-up to the IRS of all the fucking bullshittery, commingling of funds, all these loans, all of this shit. The IRS will look into it, because that's what they do. And I get 15 to 30% of the recovered untaxable dollars. If the employees haven't been paid at that point, I will pay the employees. You can take that to the bank. If I get money from the IRS for turning in Steven and John and Intrepid Studios, I will pay the employees. I will buy from them their debt. And then what I will tell them is, I'll buy your debt. If more money comes out of the class action lawsuit, we'll get you paid. But I will also, if I get that money, I will buy all of the assets of Intrepid Studios. All those computers with the code and the assets on it, I'll buy all those as well. Because God knows that they wound down the company without getting their computers back. But generally, no, you don't answer to a judge. Will Steven or John have to answer to Dawson's attorneys? Yes. Yes, they will. If they try to pull that shit of I don't recall, I don't remember, Steven can pull that off, because Steven can say, as the CEO, I'm not required to. However, John Moore cannot. John Moore is required by his job title to have fiduciary accountability, not just responsibility, but fiduciary accountability for every dollar he expensed. So, when you start seeing the live is about once human, shouldn't be. What the fuck? Why did it not update all my titles? Thank you for letting me know that none of my titles were correct. They show correct on my side. Yeah, none of this should be about once human. Shouldn't even be in the once human category. There we go. That's fixed. After I get what you want and you wipe the computers, would you be selling them? I don't know what I would do with them. I'd probably give them away, to be honest. But yeah, they wound down the company without even recovering all their assets. So John Moore is going to have to answer an awful lot of questions, and this is how bad the books are, right? And again, this last column that you're going to see is my accounting codes, because I audited their books over the span of an evening. So this is how bad it is. First line, deposit, additional paid in capital. Well, why is your first line not initial deposit? If this is your ledger, then where's Steven's $9.55 million? Second, or the line is blank, deposit, additional paid in capital. Additional paid in from who? Is it a loan? Is it a equity purchase? So right off the bat, number one, you have an error there. Number two, Deluxe Business Systems memo. What? What did you buy there? Why is this labeled as a PayPal service fee? Right? That's not a PayPal service fee. That's a purchase via PayPal. But then if it's purchased via PayPal, why do you have this listed as a check? Where's the check number? Line number 3, service charge, minus $10. Is that because the bank account is below $2,000? Are these insufficient funds? Because, so that you know, most corporate accounts have a minimum balance of $2,000 or $2,500. I can't go below $2,500 on my corporate account. It sucks because it means my corporation's first $2,500 is always tied up, but that's what it is. It is what it is. Now you have a deposit, which is an investment, but it doesn't list who here. You created a specific accounting code for that guy's investment, but it's not a deposit, it's equity. So the fucking Dawson's attorneys are just gonna be like, Mr. Moore, do you have a bachelor's degree in accounting? No. What is the highest level of education you have? Associate's degree. In what? Accounting? Do you believe that you possess the skills necessary to serve as the CFO of a company that eventually had $197 million in throughput? Yes. Excellent. Let's start with page 1 of your records. Could you imagine how this is going to look when the jury has to watch John Moore not be able to explain shit? You have domestic wires going out listed as checks. You have insurance expenses but no vendor. Like, how the hell do you have an insurance expense with no vendor? How do you have an insurance expense listed as a positive? John Moore is fucked because there is nothing about the books that John Moore can defend. Just got here. Do I think do we still got a game, or did Steven completely run the company into the ground? The game is completely run into the ground. The company is run into the ground. There's no game coming. There might be a game coming, but you have to think about it this way. Robert Dawson isn't just going to want $80 million. He's going to want $80 million and a bunch of interest. Dawson is out $80 million and all of the profit he would have made. Somebody said today, and it was like, I'm sorry, but I don't have a very high tolerance for stupid people. Somebody said 100,000 subscribers. 100,000 subscribers is enough at $20 a month to cover a company that spends 60 to 80 million to acquire Ashes and finish it. Okay. $80 million at a $20 a month monthly sub. Right? Is $2 million. 100,000 players at $20 a month. That's $2 million a month. It would take 40 months of $0 expenditure to break even. Considering maybe $6 a month can go to paying off back money. Maybe $6. Just about a third of the money can go to pay back. So we're gonna go 600,000. That is 133 months of time. Yeah, the person didn't even consider operating expense, let alone your ops and sustainment branch of your company, your customer service people, the people that are just keeping the servers up and running, the people that are going to have to develop new content. You're going to have an expense. 133 months. 11 years. 11 fucking years. The person was like, 100K is more than enough. What are you, fucking stupid? Like, when people tell me that shit, it automatically puts them in a silo of, you are not the guy who owns the franchise. You're the guy who puts the salt on the fries. Quit jerking off on the track and put the lotion in the basket. Telling me 100,000 players is enough to offset an $80 million buy? 5 years. 5. If your ROI is going to take you more than 5 years, nobody is going to invest in that. Nobody. Be honest, if that shit not happened, this game will easily hit 1.5 to 2 million subs, 300%. That's probably the reason why you're banned on my channel, because to be honest with you, this is some more fool-ass shit. You think that Ashes of Creation would hit 1.5 to 2 million subs when New World sold 4 million copies of a buy-to-play game? New World only sold 4 million copies and it was buy-to-play. Also, if the very best you can do is 1.5 to 2 million, then what this is this is called a WAG. This is called a wild-ass guess. The best you can do is a 500,000 sub variant. You put zero thought process into what you're doing here, and then you said 300%. 300% sure, you're a fucking idiot. How many MMOs have hit 1.5 million subs, not just players? No box cost, yes, why not? Because there's a box cost now. Or didn't you pay attention? Also, you missed the whole point of what I said. New World only sold 4 million copies on a buy-to-play. New World sold 4 million copies on a buy-to-play, meaning you buy it once, you play forever. Even if you got 2 million, even if I give you 2 million, after a month you have 1 million. After the second month you have 500K. After the third month you have 250K. This is the standard watered down 50% reduction. You also would have an awful lot of players, if they honored the previous purchases, that don't pay anything for the first 3 months. I never would have bought IOC if it had a sub. Well, it did have a sub. Ashes of Creation has always had a sub. Ashes of Creation has always had a monthly sub. How many MMOs have hit 1.5 million subs at some point in their lifetime? Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14, EverQuest, EverQuest 2. Wow. Subs. Yeah, not a lot. New World pivoted to be Baby Ashes, so a pretty good marker for what Ashes might have been headed towards. You're right. And also remember, New World's costs were lower because Amazon was paying Amazon for server cost. Lifetime subs is sub 5,000 people. EverQuest is still alive, but it's no longer sub. EverQuest 2 is still alive, but it's no longer sub. Do I have a kick link? I do. So, ultimately, what people are failing to realize is with an $80 million minimum, 80 million minimum, you need at least 1 million players for the first year to get you out of the hole that you're in. If we do this realistically, let me do this realistically. You got to cover 80 million divided by $6. So 80 million divided by $6, you need 13,333,333 sub months. We divide this by 36. So you need at least 370,370 players average the entire time. For 3 years. This needs to be your average monthly subscriber count for 3 years. The person said they could do it on 100,000. No way. If you really wanted to take a risky proposition, you could do divided by 60. If they're willing to get their money back over 5 years, then you would need 222,000. DC Universe was so much fun before they got rid of the sub. You're right. Sub price has value in MMO games, in multiplayer games. Sub keeps a lot of the trash out. Subs keep a lot of the trash out. That's why a lot of clubs have a 2-drink minimum. Because it's your cover charge. They don't want broke-ass people coming in the club. I never had a problem going to the club with the 2-drink minimum because I knew I was going to drink 2 drinks. So, I'm honestly surprised that studios even keep trying to make new MMOs when the success rate is as low as it is. That is because studios need to make an MMO and they need to not talk about it. They need to shut up. They need to color. They need to just make the damn game. If they build it, they will come. If you made even a halfway decent fantasy MMO right now, you would make bank because there's nothing else on the market. But what you can't do is you can't make it for $124 million, $197 million. You need to keep the price reasonable. Do I have an opinion on Scars of Honor? My opinion on all games until their launch now is I'm watching optimistically. Modern studios desperately need good internal QA and to stop with the open alphas and betas. I agree with you. They need to stop with the open alphas and betas. Not because open alphas and betas aren't useful, but the marketing has changed so much that open alphas and betas means everybody knows everything about the game beforehand. Too many players are against the idea of procedural generation, but procedural generation is the only way a game can create content faster than you can consume it. People make terrible testers. I tested New World every phase and most people got codes. We're just there to get a head start. Close to no testing was actually done. And you are correct, except where you're not correct. You don't need every single person to be a good tester. You do need an awful lot of just bodies. For example, we were redesigning a building and my boss and his boss and the boss's boss were having a hard time conceptualizing what I was talking about. What I was telling them was, this hallway is too narrow. What I need to do is I need to knock out this wall and I need to make this first entry reception room this big. And my bosses weren't seeing it. So what I did was I said, let's set this up on Friday morning. And then I had 60 people try to line up in this area, and I just put a piece of tape down and I tried to line 60 people up here, and then they saw that it wasn't going to work. Not every single person invited into a testing round needs to be a great individual tester. Sometimes you need bodies just slamming into your servers so that you can get data. The problem becomes, if nobody is reporting any bugs, well, now you're fucked. Open alphas and betas are actually good since it lets you find the 1 in a million bugs and glitches that would get blown out of proportion if they happened on launch. True. But where I agree with you is you need to do some testing for load testing and access testing without the bows and the ribbons and the barrettes. You need to just give a bare bones game. Here you go. pick one of these characters. You're going to drop into an open field. We're going to blow the shit out of each other. What's the performance like? Great. Well, when do I get to play the game? When it launches. Have a good day. Like ArcAge had the huge problem. The one vendor sold you milk for 10 copper and bought it back for a gold. Well, that's a mistake. If somebody doesn't report that, it's skunk's launch. And guess what? They were told about it in alpha. They were told about it in beta. They fixed it both times. And guess what? In the launch build, it wasn't fixed. Let's see. Nope, they will never have to explain to a judge. Let's see. So somebody, the next question was, oh my Lord. In my opinion, what are the most likely outcomes of this legal battle? Hold on, because you brought up a really good point. Let me jump back out here real quick. You said when Intrepid wouldn't even tell us what they were supposed to be. Well, that is because please don't ever look at what Intrepid Studios did for testing and think that it was good testing. Steven Sharif did not know what good testing protocols look like, and he wouldn't have known those things if they jumped up and bit him in the ass. When I found out that the Alpha 1 map was never going to be the map that moved on to live, Steven reopening Alpha 1 sales was because the company was broke. He was jerking everybody off. The problem with Ashes, you're absolutely right. If I don't know what the drop rate is supposed to be, I'm hoping that you have data gathering tools on your end that are gathering the data you need that let you know. How about these multi-million-dollar companies pay people to test in-house? They don't want you to pay them to test. You're right. These multi-million-dollar companies should pay people to test in-house. However, you're never going to find as many things in-house as you are giving it, shotgunning it out to 10,000 players. Like my community found multiple duplication bugs. Steven's other problem was he lied to the community because he stated, we don't launch builds until they've been QA'd in-house. Well, there's no fucking way, based on when you were pinging that Discord channel, there's no way in hell you're testing that you're properly testing internally when you're constantly cooking builds. You don't have time to vet what you're doing, cook the build, or make the changes, cook the build, give it to QA, let QA give it back to the cooks for them to make corrections. The problem is Steven is the problem. Steven doesn't know what the fuck Steven doesn't know. And he's like, well, we got a lot of Dunning-Kruger here. Yeah, man, the only expertise you have is that you used other people's money to buy yourself a game studio to put 9 years of CEO and creative director experience on a resume. But you have 0 out of 1 shipped products you have 0 out of you're 1 out of 2 on shipped products, and one of them sucked ass. You failed to launch a battle royal. So you launched a product, it sucked. Your own employees say that you were operating in such a way that perpetuated tech debt. So I don't want to make it sound like every company having open testing is bad, but I've done testing where I get testing protocols that literally say, we want you to make this character, name it this, do this quest, do this quest, do this quest, do this quest, do this quest. Don't do anything else. How much gold, how much currency do you have? What drops do you have? Da-da-da. Because professional QA testers are the ones who properly diagnose and document the game-breaking bugs so they can be easier to fix. Right. And but they had QA testers. Intrepid Studios had QA testers. They just couldn't have possibly been allowed to do their job. If you're pushing out a new build every 24 hours, when is your QA team having a chance to vet the build? I think it's okay to say, hey guys, QA costs a shit ton of money, so we're thinking about allowing a number of you to test the game. That sounds cool. I respect them a little bit for truly trying. If you have a few people, yes. If you have a handful of people, like for example, Eternal Tombs. Josh reached out to the content creators and said, we're having an open testing this weekend. The content creators we've cultivated, do any of you want a key? And I said, yeah. So I grabbed it. I already have an account. He just made sure I was active. I logged in. He was sitting in the Twitch channel. He was sitting listening as I was playing because he's seeing it with somebody else narrating their experience, and he's like, shit, gotta fix that, gotta fix that, gotta fix that. He shot me a message right after my stream ended. He's like, yeah, I was watching your show and I have a laundry list of things to correct before the weekend. Having internal people is great, yes, but everybody inside of a project gets bias. Give me 60 seconds. Professional QA testers are great, but they're statistically bound to miss many bugs and glitches because of scope. You need to bring in thousands upon thousands to find bugs and glitches. Yeah. You're right. You need to have a lot of people touch things. Also, remember, things that are broken, not everything is always broken on the internal build. It breaks when it goes to the external build. I get that, but the mentality in the industry now is that players have shown companies they're willing to pay those companies to test for them. I'm glad you put test in quotes, because what you're really doing is you're not testing for them. You're previewing and you're hyping it, which is why I said you need to make sure that, are you doing a marketing alpha? Are you doing a testing alpha? Are you doing a data-driven alpha? Like, if you tell people this is a marketing alpha, just fucking be honest with them. Be like, look, first of all, you should never have a marketing alpha, period. You should have a marketing beta. You have multiple times QA testing, like technical QA and non-technical QA. Also true. Does this work? Yes. Does this work? Yes. Does it do what we want it to? No. It's doing what you programmed it to do. Yeah, the output is correct. What did you intend the output to be? For a large game like Ashes, I think it might be better to do a closed alpha beta with open applications. Better for who? Better how? Professional testers are going to do a great job documenting like the bugs. Standard users are going to find a huge quantity, but not be very good about documenting them. Yes, that's also true. Also true. And that's what I said. If Intrepid doesn't give people focus areas, or any game company, you don't give people what to focus on or what to ignore. Guys, look, we understand there's typos. Please don't submit typo bugs. We know there's typos. Please don't submit those. We're gonna do another pass on those. If we miss those in beta, send those to us. But you never knew what Intrepid wanted you to test. But if you remember, there's an awful lot of people in that community that said Ashes of Creation in the current state it's in is better than every other MMO on the market. For a large game like Ashes, yeah, closed alphas and betas with invitations. Closed alphas, yes. if you want to start doing your marketing, like 120 days before launch. You'll get a larger percentage of the player count that document properly since you screen them while making it clear this is still a work in progress. I'm going to disagree with you adamantly about that. I don't think you're going to get a larger percentage of the player count that will document properly. Because how do you know that when you screen them? Are you going to have them write a 2,500 word essay? You have no way to tell the quality of a work somebody's going to do from an application. Maybe if you collect resumes, but even if you collect resumes, some of the most detail-orientated people I know are people with menial jobs. They just don't aspire to greatness. It's not a new arrangement. Chain restaurants like McDonald's have test kitchens where they sell experimental food. The problem is MMOs are massive. It's not a simple fix. If people don't like Spam McFlurry, you just toss it. If they don't like your MMO, it gets flamed online by the community. That's the big piece. Any news with the lawsuits Steven is losing? Yeah, I talked about that at the beginning of the show. If you're just joining us, Steven basically, based on the judge's response to Steven's filing, it's pretty clear Steven is going to lose this case. Steven seems to be under the delusion that he's entitled to something. And last week, for 6.5 hours, I went over his exhibits, and a lot of his own exhibits show what Dawson is doing is legal. Moral? Fuck no. Legal? Fuck yes. The Aaron Bartels email is fucking terrible. But break, that's a different issue. That's an issue for the class action lawsuit to bring up. As it is right now, if that class action lawsuit the law firm of, who the fuck is doing this? I don't have the law firm address in front of me. If they don't get off their ass and start filing some stuff, they could find that the IP is out the door. I played Ashes back in the OG Alpha 1 and then the first couple of waves of 2025 version. Biggest red flag for me was the unresponsive reluctance to lower the amount of XP to max level. Well, that's because you missed the point. We tested 1 to 10 how many times? Don't you want more at max? No, because I'm going to stop you right there. You clearly didn't understand what you were testing then. You were never testing endgame. You were never testing max level. You only ever got to level 25. The game was always designed to have a long time getting there. So, like, you basically encapsulated what somebody else said. You didn't know what you were supposed to be testing, meaning you were a player, not a tester. I think you're statistically bound to get better feedback simply because they had put more effort into getting through into the beta through an application. Same way as you whitelist a server more or less in a game, you generally get a higher quality of player. Well, you cannot. No, you're wrong. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you, completely stop you right there. You don't get better feedback because you put an obstacle into it. Because people that want to test the game are willing to do whatever it takes to get through the obstacle. Great case in point for this. My wife was invited into Final Fantasy XIV testing, and I was not. My wife filled out the application. I filled out the application. My wife had never tested a game, alpha or beta, anything. She got in, I didn't. When you have people fill out an application, the application can only be one indicator. Unless you're asking for which games have you tested. You said that's what I meant, max for the alpha. Right, nerd alert. You didn't understand what you were testing in alpha. You don't lower the XP necessary for an experience loop. Otherwise, you didn't get any data on the experience loop. The biggest red flag was you had to pay $500 to test the game. Well, you didn't, so that wouldn't be a red flag either. Some people paid 500, some people paid 250, some people paid 100, some people paid 75, some people paid 50. I understand what you're trying to go with, where you're trying to go with that, but let's make sure that we don't have to stretch the truth. There's more than enough truth to condemn Steven and condemn Intrepid. We don't have to make shit up. $500 gave you more than just access to the game. This isn't me defending Intrepid or defending Steven, it's defending the truth. I think it's very important that we make sure when people say it was $500 to test the game, well, the problem with that is $500 to test the game, but it gave you 1 year of sub time. So now you're down to 320. So if you want to make the argument it was 320 to test the game, sure. But if in that 500 was not lifetime. 500 was lifetime in Kickstarter, but they had less than 10,000 backers. Also, Kickstarter had numerous tiers under 500 for lifetime. So we got to make sure that when we do this, that we're accurate. And that's a really big problem gamers have, is accuracy. They don't like to be correct. They like to be emotional. Just like Karthos got kicked off of a Discord of another content creator because he's calling people out for the bullshit that they're spreading. Now, if they don't want Karthos there and they don't want to correct the bullshit, then that speaks volumes about what you do want. If you want to be the next source of bullshit, of conspiracy, then kick out the guy who's going to challenge people intellectually to say, that's not accurate. There's 3 or 4 people on that creator's Discord that just make shit up to suit themselves. Not a good look. Still paying that sum just to test the game is bullshit. Right. But again, and I mean this with all necessary respect, $500 to you is a lot of money. $500 to me isn't. That's why nothing from my channel goes to me. It goes to charity. It goes to PGN Music. All the music you hear on my channel is DMCA free. It goes for the websites that I maintain. $500 is a variable sum of money. For me, it's entertainment. Like, I'm out $2,000 for the 2 Ashes of Creation accounts I had. Me personally, I'm out $2,000. $1,200 on mine, $800 on my wife's. But my company is up $33,000. I don't think there was a less than 500 for lifetime. I specifically chose the lowest cost. There was. It was if you got one of the early access Braver of Worlds packages on Kickstarter. They had a handful at 400, a handful at 425, a handful at 450. But it was the Braver of Worlds at 500. It was just discounted. Let's see. What is the likely outcome of this legal battle? The most likely outcome of this legal battle is that Robert Dawson will still end up as the owner of the intellectual property inside of TFE Games Holdings. The bank will have to get $6 million somehow. The state of California will have to get $30,000 somehow. And the Small Business Administration will have to get $180,000 somehow. Appreciate that. Appreciate the Prime sub. I love Bezos bucks. He doesn't need them. He's got a yacht bigger than my town. And at the end, the employees are probably going to have to end up suing the board members directly. And in the end, the most likely outcome is that there's a high probability John Moore ends up in jail. there's a small possibility Steven Sharif ends up in jail for fraud and wire fraud. But it's going to require a prosecutor to pick up the case. There just happens to be a really important prosecutor. That prosecutor that has this case on his desk is known as the Attorney General of the state of California. I know it's on his desk. I fucking put it there. So I know he's aware of this. So the IRS is aware. The Department of Justice is aware. California AG is aware. Because fuck him, right? If he had taken care of the employees, if Robert Dawson had taken care of the employees, if they all had taken care of the employees, then I would back off. You accepting any loan applications? No. Love the teardown of Intrepid. I can't deal with all the former Ashes of Creation influencers. What I do want to talk about my peers that are Ashes of Creation influencers real quick. Nothing but love for most of the content creators still making Ashes content. Some of them are mad. Some of them are pissed off. They were duped. They were lied to. Some of them are very angry, and rightfully so. Some people are still sucking Steven off because they gave up jobs or they became full-time content creators to cover Ashes. Get off the nutsack, man. Steven doesn't care about you. Steven does not care about you or that you became a full-time creator to cover his game. He doesn't care. If you're not willing to point out the red flags of Intrepid, you don't deserve a community. I can get it if people don't want to get behind me as a content creator because I'm condescending, I'm callous, I'm arrogant, I'm cold, crass, vulgar. I talk down to people. I don't put up with any bullshit. I don't put up with any stupidity. And I prune sub 50 IQ comments out of my community. I understand I'll never be a large creator. But if you're sucking Steven off still, being a White Knight fanboy, then fuck you, honestly. You don't deserve a community. Yeah, mildly entertaining. Hello. I'm getting yelled at by a cat. In looking at the books available, and we got to put a disclaimer on this, the books available are and ledger, an entire ledger that may or may not be valid. So I made $5 for being that way. I know, right? Actually, I made $2.50. Bezos takes half of his Bezo bucks back. What a scam. Hi, can the people see you? Hi, I know. You're a whiny void. You want into your girlfriend? Gonna be nice? 1 second. Gonna be nice? Sorry, he's not a very nice boy. I got to keep him away from my emotional support animal. But she needs to learn to fight back. So as long as I don't hear fur flying. And looking back at the books available to everyone so far, had Steven alleged mismanagement of the company funds been taking place since the very beginning? Or did that develop after a period of time? According to I am the asshole that you need. I am the hero that you need. Yes, that is true. And the cat does appreciate being called cute. If this ledger is the accurate ledger, then John Moore and Steven Sharif were cooking the books from the very beginning. To just show you one part, when I rebalanced out the books, what I did was I classified everything I didn't remember. Your books should tell a majority of the story without you speaking. So your books should not have an entire accounting code of 9 and then 9 the 9000 series being all fraud, waste, and abuse. This number is $64.89 million. What you're seeing on the screen represents a little under a third of the cash flow through Intrepid. $32 million in unclassified cash outflows. That's a hell of a lot of money in unclassified cash outflows. That's a lot of money. $307,000 in meals. $307,000 in fucking meals, guys. That's crazy. Yeah, I would have to go back and break out excessive hotel expenses. But I think I have those all broken out as unclassified cash outflows. That's like one DoorDash orders. Yes, $370,000. I think I have all the hotels. Yeah, I have all the hotels labeled as unclassified cash outflows because you don't say why you have hotels. Ghost employees, $75,000. $5 million transfers to John Moore. Unsupported transactions, another $20 million. So if Robert Dawson needs somebody on his team, I'm available. But I can't work for a man until he makes good with all his old employees. I can come in and audit your books better than Ryan Ogden can. But so the question becomes, when did this problem start? Did this problem start at the very beginning of the company? And the answer is yes. Right inside of the first year of the company, there was a $30,000 shareholder loan to Steven's mother. There was $115,000 transferred to John Moore. There was $358,000 in unclassified cash outflows in the first year. It's just ridiculous. And by the way, I can... like, now that this document has been made public knowledge, why the fuck are you giving a loan to Sharon Sharif? Period. Why? Didn't all the Kickstarter money go right to John Moore's account? It's not fair to say it went right to John Moore's account. I'll bring that up. What the fuck? So here's what happened with the Kickstarter money. And remember, that last column that you see some data in, the very last part of the thing is my accounting codes, so that I can find this stuff. A deposit happened, which was labeled as sales, which shouldn't be labeled as sales. Fucking dumbass. Because now, did you make 2.9 million in sales? Yes. Are you gonna pay sales tax? Bringing your budget up, bringing your total running account up to 2.9 million. And then immediately $150,000 goes into John Moore's account. And then 2.3 million transfers to the Chase account. And then you have a check for a deposit and a check for a deposit and a check for a transfer. I have no idea what the fuck you're doing other than failing out of accounting 101. Like, literally, you failed. Yeah, $150,000 went to John Moore's account, and then just a couple of weeks later, another transaction went to John Moore's account. The question was, did new books come out, or have we verified the books that we have are the real and only books? I cannot make the statement that the books we have are the only books. However, Stephen's 400 pages of evidence last week fits squarely into this ledger. It would be almost impossible to cook the books in such a way to condemn John Moore, but keep the... remember, when I say this, people that know me know that my OCD is on point. When I did this, first and foremost, I took their whole ledger, because I like people to know what they're looking at isn't some dumbcoff who doesn't know what they're doing. I want you to know that this is perfectly balanced. So you'll see a number right here, and then a number right here. And this word match is because that cell equals that cell. So I know the total inflow and outflow, and I know the running balance by year. And then when I lined this out, because I want to be able to talk about it, right? I want to be able to have a conversation about it. When I line this out, and this goes on for fucking ever, you'll see every year lines up exactly. I know where every penny came from. And then, and this one has to be zoomed out even farther, when I look at their outflow is perfectly balanced. So when Stephen says this is a prop, that we're being misled. Okay, if we're being misled, if there's one creator, if there's one independent person, give me the fucking books. Because I've already done the diligence. If you're saying that these books aren't accurate, you were the secretary of the company. Where are the books? I'll do one better. Why don't you give me your tax returns? Because with your tax returns from any independent year, I can use your tax returns to audit off. But he won't do that. Because when Stephen said, let's look at stuff, but then he seals it. Because he only wants to tell the parts of the story that fit him. I feel like there was an off-books ledger somewhere. I don't. I feel that I personally believe this is their book. I personally believe that they never thought anybody would get a copy of this book. Was anything seized or subpoenaed? No, because there's been no criminal start yet. But remember, it takes the IRS or the Attorney General's office a while to get started. The Attorney General's office and the IRS might be waiting for the civil case, because the greatest thing that happens is Stephen Sharif has to go in there. Stephen or John has to provide testimony, because there's no mechanism to put a ledger into, or an artifact or a loan statement. A witness testimony has to accompany, because you're going to be like, and I took a loan from Robert Dawson on this date. Is this a copy of the loan statement? Yes. Objection, Your Honor. We were never given a copy of that. Well, it's the loan statement, but we weren't given a copy of it. You can't introduce it. We have a copy from that date, but we never got yours. Now, if the defense gave it to the plaintiff, that's a different story. Then it was passed in discovery. Are there standard repayment dates for shareholder loans? Can it be only 1 or 2 years? That is a great fucking question. Great question. There is nothing standard about a shareholder loan, except on the day you issue the loan, you must look up the federal current rate for the duration of loan. You have to generate loan paperwork And if the loan is from 0 to 3 years, you use the short-term loan. If you go 4 years to 7 years, I think, off the top of my head, is the medium-term loan, and anything over 7 has got to use the long-term loan, and you don't get to pick that. In the other video I did, it's over on YouTube, what I said, if I was going to loan myself interest on that day, I think it was April 11th, the federal rate was 3.59%. So I just rounded up to 4. I just do the headache-free method. I'm doing the loan over a weekend. I don't know what's going to happen on Monday. I'm just running up to 4. If it jumps way over 4 on the first day, great. But yeah, this behavior happened all the way at the beginning. This question, this is the hard question. What happens if Intrepid really wasn't supposed to issue more than one class of stock? How would a judge likely rule that? What kind of settlement do you think would be likely if they did settle? Okay. So first of all, Intrepid Studios, when they filed their articles of incorporation, they were only authorized to issue one share class of stock, and it was common stock, 10 million shares. Very quickly after that, Stevens started issuing preferred shares, which in later documents, I see him classify as Class B shares. The problem is, I see messages from Robert that Stevens submitted stating, we need to get these articles of incorporation updated, and those would be public. Articles of incorporation need to be public because a potential investor needs to be able to verify what you're authorized to do. So for example, if I had gone to Steven and said, hey, Bubba, I heard you're in some money crisis. You're authorized to issue 10 million shares of stock. How many do you have available to issue out? And he would say 6 million. Okay, I will buy 1 million shares of stock for $10 million. He says, oh yeah, that's great. But I need the shareholder agreement. I need the capitalization table. I need a copy of your books. And he's like, well, why do you need a copy of my books? Because I need to go through your records so that I can match all equity purchases to the capitalization table. And right then, Steven would have started staring at his feet. I would have been like, okay, well, if the answer isn't here's our books, I walk away from the deal. Thomas Alkazin was given 2.2% of the company for a $2 million loan. Meanwhile, where's this? So Thomas was given 2.2% of the company for $2 million. Meanwhile, the Yaya Legacy Trust was given 4.4% of the company for $2.2 million. And when I go through the records, I can only find $1.4 million from Thomas invested into the company. And again, if somebody doctored the books, that would then make all of my numbers should be off by 600,000. My numbers aren't off by a penny. So, the question is, if they weren't authorized to issue those preferred shares of stock, what's going to happen? Well, this has been a hard-ass thing to research, and my lawyer friends aren't a whole lot of help on this, because somebody said, is Steven vulnerable to any action? Yeah, securities fraud. Somebody said, well, what will happen is the judge will just go to the very beginning and unwind every deal and then re-deal out all the cards. And that will happen assuming Steven didn't sell off more than 100% of the company. With that, if the judge has to sit there and redistribute out ownership of the company, as long as the total ends up at 100% or less, that the judge will do that. But it's not about equality. It's about equity. And Steven allowed Robert Dawson to backdate documents. Steven allowed Robert Dawson to buy 10% of the company flat for $10. He allowed Robert Dawson to assign a valuation of the company. But Jason Karamanis had undilutable shares. So if the judge has to get involved in unwinding this, you can pretty much assume the judge is going to be pissed off. Now, is there a chance that the ledger we have was created as something to give to Dawson, like the cap table was for Jason? Everything is possible, but I highly doubt it, because, again, it would be far easier to fudge it'd be far easier to fudge one part of this. It would be far easier to fudge, say, this, because there's no detail here. But it would be very difficult to fudge that and have the whole year line up and all the years line up and get to the end goal. All those things combined would be very, very difficult to have. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying it's a tall order. It's a big ask to get all that right. I don't get why private investors would want accept dilutable shares. It's a great fucking question. Shit, man. I think for the first time in fucking 7 years of streaming, you stumped the chump, man. I can't think of a single reason why private investors would ever accept dilutable shares. No, you cannot add that one to the list because I can't answer it. Let me say this. I don't know why somebody would want dilutable shares, but then again, I would never dream of selling dilutable shares because I was raised by parents that taught me honor, respect, loyalty, values, morality. Don't be a thief, don't be a cheat, don't be a sneak. I would never offer an investor dilutable shares because I'm not an asshole. I'm not greedy. I'll have to think on that one. Question: when the CFO changed and the books are so bad, should the new CFO not report it to someplace? That is an awesome question, and yes, Ryan Ogden probably should have reported the books to the IRS. These books were so bad, but then again, Ryan Ogden in the last year, he put like 15 different categories of things into accounts payable. So I don't know what Ryan Ogden's background is, but I don't think he was a very good CFO either. As I've said, books should be able to tell you the story without any discussion, from the user. Let me say this. I am so supremely confident in how I maintain my books. I'm about to show you PGN's books. Blind. Because I have nothing to hide. And this is, somebody could go to Steven and they could say, this is full transparency. These are my books. This is where the money goes in. I haven't had a business day yet to update these for the month. But that is PGN's music down to the penny. That's where we are. Transaction is an expense or is it income? Description, exactly what is it to? Category, that's for later in the year, and then I'll show you the second page of this in a second. That's the category. What's the amount? I run a single ledger, green and red. I could run debit, credit. I just prefer to run a single ledger. And then what's my running balance? That's the company's books up through 8 April. Right? That's how Intrepid's books should look. Why is it I'm a tiny ass little $6,000 value company and yet my books are better? Why is that? And that's because they wanted to play loose and fast with people's money. Now, as far as the other bit of their money, they should have I must have touched something. Okay. It's good I'm doing this live because now I just found something out to fix later. But this is the tax liability by quarter. That's the sources of income. 72% of our money comes from DistroKid. Less than 1% comes from Kick. 4% goes from Stream Elements. That Stream Elements number needs to reflect the charity donations later this year. Right? That's transparency. The thing I gotta fix is I've got some divide by zeros in there. Gotta fix those. Many dilutable instruments give investors a choice later. If things go badly, act like a lender. Protect your downside if things go well. Convert into shares and ride the upside. Yeah, but the problem is with that is you do not want to convert your shares of stock if you want to act as a lender. Once you convert the shares of stock, you no longer are a lender, you're an equity holder. What your ChatGPT gave you the answer was what you might want to do, because on the loan, whether or not the loan calls for me to take preferred shares or common shares, I can always convert my debt into equity, but also I can call no, I can't. If I put a conversion clause in there, then I can't call the debt the way I want to. I would have to do an Article 9 foreclosure, which is what they're doing. It's what they did. Let's see. So what would happen if they weren't authorized to issue multiple shares of stock? How would the judge I wrote that. How would the judge likely rule? I don't know how the judge is likely going to rule, but what I know what the judge has to do is the judge has to ensure that everybody has an equitable outcome to their investment, which I think Robert Dawson has poisoned because he required a backdated valuation. And you should never have a backdated valuation. And I think the judge might have a problem with that, and the judge may pitch the backdated valuation. The judge may say this isn't legal. What kind of settlement do you think would be likely if they did settle? Dawson won't settle with Sharif. Dawson will beat Sharif on Sharif's case. Sharif's case is terrible. It lacks merit. His whole argument is Robert Dawson outsmarted me. Okay. You know what though? Two people have never deserved each other more than Robert Dawson and Stephen Sharif. That is true. If you have dilutable shares, you have lost control of the investment. Doesn't mean bad things will happen, just means bad things could happen. Right, exactly. Which is why, I mean, if I had to take on investors, I would simply make all the shares non-dilutable shares. Like, I would write that into the shareholder agreement. Now, updated shareholder agreement as of today, because I'm still in control of all the shares of stock. All shares are now non-dilutable. We are going to be at a fixed 10,000 shares. Now, we can always do a stock split later on because a stock split doesn't dilute. Let's see. I would be... Okay, and this is the follow-up to that. I would be curious to know more about the stock process, though. Like, is there an option if the judge has to unwind the purchase that the public would get knowledge into how much each person was sold and what dates the sales took place? Yes, there is $64 million misaccounted for. There's so much general fuckery above that, it may never reach that level of a ruling by the judge. You are correct. That is true. Would the public get to know how much each person was sold and what dates the sales took place? Well, obviously, Steven has motioned for certain things to be sealed. Because Jason Karamanis is not a... Wait, is he? Hold on. I might be speaking out of turn. Jason Karamanis is not a party to case 20 CCV 965. I don't think if the judge makes a ruling, I don't think the judge can seal that ruling because it impacts an individual who is not a named party. Because Jason Karamanis is the secondary shareholder. That doesn't mean that they couldn't seal it and send it over to Jason because he has an open lawsuit. That one is a procedural question for California court that I'm not qualified to answer. I know how the process should work, big picture. It shouldn't be sealed because Thomas Alakazam isn't named in those suits either. So those people have to, if the judge makes a ruling that changes their ownership, they need to be able to, but you could seal it and make them parties, named parties to the ruling. And like I said, that's going to be a California procedural thing, not my bag, not my wheelhouse. Well, it's going to be a federal court procedural thing, not my bag, not my wheelhouse. And then what's salvageable at this point? If TFE wins out, what do you think its plans will be with Intrepid and Ashes? If Steven wins, what do you think he will do? Okay, great questions. First of all, the two pieces that are the most salvageable are the art assets and the dynamic gridding. I have been told by a person I trust inside of Intrepid Studios that dynamic gridding works. It just isn't in a shippable way for them to give it to anybody else. It works for Ashes of Creation, but it's not properly documented, it's not properly formatted, and it would require a support team. I think TFE's problem is TFE believes, well, art assets, I mean the character art, the armor art, the weapons, all those things could go on the Unreal Engine store. You could take all of those things, put them on the Unreal Engine store, and make some money because they are good. They are good assets. Whether or not you don't like the style is a different story. It's a question of fidelity. I think the problem is the art assets might be worth $5 million over 5 years of sales. Dynamic gridding isn't worth anything because you don't have the subject matter expert even in the company anymore. You would need to bring back senior people, and they don't want to work for you because you fucked them. The code is useless because without your it's not like you told everybody, hey, we've issued a warn notice. Here's your 60 days notice. We don't want you to come in and work on anything. What we want you to do is we want you to come in and do your documentation. The next 60 days is going to be nothing but documentation. And then as people get jobs and they fuck off to new jobs, you got to remember, these people went home on Friday thinking they were going to come back to work on Monday. Shit's not documented. Yeah, it's a valid asset with no tangible value. A lot of these people, like I said, Robert Dawson and Aaron Bartels and Ryan Ogden and Teresa and all them, they wound the company down without getting millions of dollars in assets back. They bought more than half the staff was remote work. All those people have computers at their houses. There's multiple copies of the code out there. And by the way, just because there's multiple copies of the code out there, so people are aware, you can't build an emulator for this yet because it's still live IP, and you can't build a private server for it because it's still live IP. Somebody was like, well, we can make a private server from it, not until it's dead. Well, it is dead. If it's being fucking litigated, it's not dead. And there's some people in there that need to get the shit out of their brains and just listen to the stuff they're saying. If it's being litigated, it's not dead. Well, I'm going to build a private server for it. Then good luck, man. Do you see Big Daddy Dawson? They had a huge office and more than half remote. Their office wasn't huge. There are people working on an emulator, and they've told me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to laugh when Big Daddy Dawson sues them. And do you think that guy, do you believe if that guy is 80 million in the hole and he has a slam dunk case against you, he's not going to sue you? Think of it this way. Do you want to put yourself in the crosshairs of a guy? What code? The whole game code is on multiple machines. Not contained right now by Intrepid Studios because they fired all their employees without getting all the workstations back. But there are some people that really believe that Big Daddy Dawson ain't gonna come and spank them. Go ahead, put your private server up. Go ahead. I'm letting you know it's a violation of the USPTO. Go ahead. When Big Daddy Dawson comes and spanks your ass with a paddle and takes you for $25,000 to $50,000 plus his legal fees, I hope you set it up through a C corporation or a limited liability company, because if you set it up as yourself, he's gonna take your house. Then again, sorry, I don't know what... the office wasn't large enough for the whole staff. They had an option to rent another floor, but they never did. Reverse engineering and building a local emulator for education purpose, does it make it illegal? Yes. Is a local emulator that you never distribute for your own purposes is legal. But you can't share anything with anybody else, which means you have to organically build the whole thing yourself for yourself. If you do any more than that, does this apply if I move to Russia? Russia does still sometimes comply with USPTO, with US filings for that. They sometimes do. If you want Russia to stonewall for you, make sure you're paying somebody to do that. Yeah, look at what Blizzard has been doing. Blizzard has been shutting down private servers left and right this week. Have I seen any evidence to the argument that Jason and others had done similar things with other companies and possibly lawsuits going on in those? Yes, I have. Jason Karamanis has successfully sued 117 out of 120 times by his own statement. I recall hearing a bleep about it the other day in some stream along the lines, Jason and his friends are in trouble in Florida for doing the same thing to other companies and are in lawsuits. Not that it would matter, but I think they're trying to allude to it being predatory behavior of some sort. Okay, so Jason Karamanis is a predatory lender. With that stated, there is nothing wrong with being a predatory lender. A lot of people are like, you can't do predatory lending. No, FDIC insured banks can't do predatory lending because they've agreed not to in exchange for being FDIC insured. If I loan you $1 million at 50% APR compounding and you sign it, you're a fucking idiot, but there's nothing wrong with that. Well, the interest rate is absurd. Yeah, it is. But you chose to do it. You chose to do it. Some of what Dawson did is going to bring Dawson into the discussion of securities fraud. Except if none of the other investors feel that they were defrauded, the SEC is going to say, we don't want to touch this one with a 50-foot pole. The problem is Steven didn't know what he was doing. Bohemia has backdoor code to the game service to shut down TOS monetization violations of private servers. Well, I don't know why the fuck anybody would put a game server in Bohemia. The issue here is Steven drank his own Kool-Aid. Steven conned himself. Steven started to believe that he had the skill sets that he had. Steven was a creative director for 9 years, so he started to believe that he knew what he was doing. Oh, Bohemia Interactive. Okay. Bohemia, that's a huge fucking difference. Bohemia Interactive versus Bohemia. I was like, why the fuck is anybody putting a fucking server in Bohemia? Like, what the fuck? He was creative with the books, that's for sure. That is true. Sounds like the deals have been a bit harsh, but Steven signed it all, either not ever planning to pay it back or imagining he would be so rich it wouldn't matter. I think that this is probably the most likely. This was probably the most likely because Steven sold the idea that he was launching a $1 billion game. And people hear $1 billion, and it's really easy to con people. I'm actually shocked that Big Daddy Dawson got taken for a ride. I'm actually shocked as shit when Dawson was a couple of, 20, 40, 50 million in, and there was a buyout offer of 250 to 500 million. I'm actually shocked as shit Dawson didn't jump at that shit in half a second. Like, I'm gonna make 125 to 250 million minus my cost. I'll take it. The problem is, Riot would have looked at the books and walked away. Is it illegal to showcase gameplay from an emulator, or is this illegal too? It would be illegal to, well, depends on what you mean by showcase. Where would you be showcasing it? You can't stream it. You can't put it on YouTube because you can't put it on Kick, YouTube, or Twitch because that violates their terms of service. You can't stream from a private server. onto those platforms. You can, if you're reported for that, it's a DMCA violation. If you make any money from it, it's illegal. Correct. If you make any money directly or indirectly. Now, what about when a game is abandoned? Well, the USPTO has laws for what you can do with abandoned intellectual property. That's why Star Wars Galaxies emulators are okay and ArcAge emulators are okay, because those IPs are no longer available in an official form. That's why Blizzard created Vanilla, why they created Classic, and why they keep one server up. They'll always keep one up now of every expansion, because then nobody can say, well, I'm only providing a vanilla WoW private server because it's not available. And they'll be like, well, it's available through... No. You've changed the game organically. The Burning Crusade organically changes vanilla WoW. Well, it does. Okay. So we'll just keep one classic server up with just the core game. And then we'll keep one BC up and then one Wrath of the Lich King up as we go, because that way nobody can say we've abandoned our intellectual property. Sounds like the deals were harsh. There's nothing wrong with being greedy, legally speaking, but man, all these guys involved are greedy to the point of parody. You're right. And that is why good people, like, I couldn't do this to people. I am not capable of scamming people out of their real money. I'll scam the shit out of you in EVE Online. I'll scam the shit out of you in a video game, as long as I'm not scamming you for things that cost real world money. But Karthos and I have talked philosophically about this ad nauseum. Because certain people are raised with morals, they can't defraud other people. But you got Steven Sharif and his mom, Sharon, having people drinking cancer juice. And then Steven says, oh, well, I made money in real estate. Well, that's interesting, Steven, because we can find all sorts of documents of your MLM career, but we can't find a single real estate deal with your name on it, other than the sale of your private house. Zango. Steven Sharif was involved with Zango Juice a long time ago. They don't teach morals anymore. So, I'll be back in 60 seconds. All right. So, with all that, what's going to happen from this point forward? Well, number one, what's going to happen is Jason Karamanis is going to have to be brought in at some point to this other lawsuit, because decisions are going to be made that impact him. Because he should own at least a baseline 9.7% of Intrepid Studios. Let me look real quick at what he has, because the problem is there's so many. Like, you're talking, like, Steven keeps talking about how I'm going to get Intrepid back and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and you're like, dude, you need a month of miracles for this to happen. So, oh, I apologize, guys. I take something back. Yes, Jason Karamanis has introduced, in part, the ledger into his court proceeding. I don't see him introducing it in total, but he references it. Yeah, Jason Karamanis did in fact reference the ledger, which gives some level of validity. That this ledger is more likely rather than less likely to be valid. Plaintiffs also learned in early February that based on a review of the Intrepid QuickBooks, John Moore had received $9 million in undocumented transfers from Intrepid over the years with labels such as shareholder loan distribution or John Moore account 6009. In any event, for the startup such as Intrepid, this was not appropriate compensation for a CFO, nor was it disclosed at any time to the plaintiffs. Additionally, numerous business expenses, $3.1 million, were charged to Intrepid by Moore, but upon closer look, many of those expenses do not appear to be valid business charges, or instead personal expenses paid for with company funds. Sharif, beyond his W-2 wages, took $600,000 in monies, shareholder loan. So yeah, they did introduce the ledger, which then that means how does he own 9% if he didn't put in his own money? Jason Karamanis and the Yaya Legacy Trust own 9.7%, and they did put in their money. A stupid question: what type of stock did Yaya get from their lawsuit? They didn't get any from their lawsuit. They didn't get any. They got preferred shares of stock on their debt to equity transfer. I'm gonna go through this one. I'm gonna go through the Karamanis lawsuit now that it's becoming more relevant. I haven't gone through this one yet because I didn't think this one was going to be relevant yet, but this one becomes relevant now because we have to see what Jason thinks Jason is owed. And by the way, just hack. If you do not censor your own documents before you load them into a publicly accessible system, I am not required to then redact your documents. I don't want any of that crap, and I'm putting the marker in here. If any of you people are going to try to strike this for personal information, blame Jason. This is a public document available through the Superior Court of San Diego. I hate disclaimers. Jason Karamanis is an individual in all relevant times was an investor and lender to Intrepid Studios. Mr. Karamanis is also a trustee of the plaintiffs' Yaya Legacy Trust. Plaintiffs were lenders and investors under the promissory notes. All these. Oh, I have gone through this, but we'll go through it again. I've gone through this. Intrepid throughout its history has raised at least $120 million from various sources. True. This isn't new. This is Jason's lawsuit. On or about February 20th, Jason agreed to extend a credit loan of $2 million. Intrepid executed a written line of credit convertible promissory note dated February 20th in the favor of Mr. Karamanis in the principal amount of $2 million. A true and correct copy of this. Under the February 20th note, Intrepid could draw $2 million from the plaintiff's funding with an interest at 20% per annum. The note also contained equity participation features. Upon initial funding, Mr. Karamanis was to receive 15% ownership stake in Intrepid, and if the loan was not repaid, Mr. Karamanis would receive an additional 15% equity. So this right here isn't that Jason owns 9.7%. This is that Jason owns 30% of Intrepid Studios. Mr. Karamanis would be given a position on Intrepid's board of directors, and Intrepid would consult with him on major decisions. So now Steven's own lie fucks him. $2 million. Another $2 million here. Sharif now claimed to have invested a total of $30 million into Intrepid. Rather than have that short-term note repaid in cash, the parties agreed to roll into larger financing. 5.1 million. This is all fucked. The note carried 20% interest rate and was set to mature. 7.7% non-dilutable preferred stock valued at an $80 million company valuation. Well, fuck, that hurts Jason because that means Jason owns 7.7 dilutable at an $80 million valuation, but Robert Dawson had the company reevaluated at $265 million. Yeah, $2 million at 20% paid back in a year or lose 30% of your company, and he signed that. He signed it, yes. Is it possible karma hits his door and he sends him to jail? Yes. Steven is vulnerable to go to jail. Wire fraud, security frauds, fraudulent statements made to defraud Kickstarter backers. Yeah. There's the 4.4 there. 7.7. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that Mr. Sharif never formally added Mr. Karamanis to Intrepid's board. Okay, so let me pop out here real quick. So, Steven made a statement in his own Reddit post, which is why
Look at this. How much?
I'm sure Steven's lawyers at some point are going to quit because he won't shut the fuck up. For the last 10 years, you claim there was no board. From 2015 through July of 2024, the board consisted of 100% of the shareholders and John, myself, and Tom. Okay. But he was to be given a seat on the board of directors. The 2017 note, so this is Exhibit B. Hold on. Sorry, I think they show a bank account number, and I'm not comfortable showing that. If not sooner paid according to the terms, blah, 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 blah. Entitled to elect a majority of the company's board of directors or representing at least 51% of the number of common shares outstanding. So. This paragraph intentionally left blank. Good writing. So, I will answer the political question tomorrow. So, I don't see what Jason says in Exhibit B, the 2007 note. I don't see a specific thing that says he's going to get a seat on the board of directors. No, it can be this spot intentionally left blank because you can't have a future use in a signed contract. But what clearly happened there is somebody had already drafted it, must have already referenced Section 5 and didn't want to renumber it, so you just make Section... because you can't have a blank either. I could call Jason and get him on the stream. I have his phone number. But I'm waiting until I will liaise with... Right now, Nafis has got the lead on talking to Jason. When Jason's case is done, that'll be the time I want to talk to him. Yeah, remainder of this page intentionally left blank to make sure nobody tries to put a clause 18 in. Intentionally deleted. You can't take out section 9, so you have to state why 9 isn't there. But yeah, that is correct. But I don't see. Yeah, see, there's your reserved. I wouldn't do it that way. No, item number 11 was intentionally left blank because once you sign it, you can't amend it. You have to do an an addendum. Call Steven. I am pretty certain that Steven, I am pretty certain that Steven wouldn't take my phone call. I'm pretty certain Steven is pretty pissed at me. I mean, I would be too. But guys, I do have to share with you. I did rein myself in yesterday.
Look at this.
I was gonna be really mean yesterday, but my conscience got the better of me.
Look at this. How much did you spend on DoorDash for business meetings? And now you need Popeyes? What a fatty.
So I rolled
Look
that
at this.
one back. I rolled that one back. I don't think Steven's happy with me right now, though. I don't think he's happy with me. And I don't see what Jason's talking about. Any transaction or series in which person shall directly or indirectly acquire, merger, entitled to. Yeah, I don't think this section does what Jason thinks it does. I don't think this section. Yeah, this section doesn't give anybody. Did you say something about him being married to a man? No, I said he was married. Steven is married to his husband. Yes. But I didn't say anything about him being married to a man. I don't give a shit who he's married to. But yeah, Steven is married to John Moore. All right. So I can't, like, right here. $2 million loan is 15% equity. The fuck is wrong with you, Steven? It's 2 men. So who gives a shit? They're not trying to fuck you. What are you worried about? Be real careful what you say next, because I don't deal with isms. I don't deal with, like, homophobia. If you're upset that Steven is married to another man, take that shit somewhere else. Who cares? They're not trying to have sex with you. What are you worried about? There's Asmongold. I've never taken a dime or profit from this company. That was funny. Steven talked to his self right into a hole. The MSA includes broad release language purporting to release claims arising out of disputes. Yeah, this is the thing that we need. We need the master settlement agreement. So 12.3 million is what Jason is out. Yeah, I've been through this. I don't think Jason's lawsuit, I think it has enough honest mistakes in it that it doesn't damn him completely. But He needs to make sure that the ducks are in a row. How can Jason introduce the QuickBooks into evidence? Because Jason is a shareholder, and a shareholder was given a copy of the any shareholder has the right to get a true and complete copy of the financial records of the company of which they're invested. If I invest money into your company, you can't hide the books from me. Well, the what you have to give me varies. Because Ryan Ogden is neutral, he gave Jason a complete and accurate copy of the books. Because Jason is a shareholder, he can submit those books because he specifically stated, I received these from Ryan Ogden. Now, when it goes, remember, it hasn't been introduced into evidence yet. It's been introduced as an exhibit in a filing, in a pleading. Ryan can't introduce the ledger into evidence. It'll probably be something stipulated to in the pretrial. Otherwise, you're going to have this really, really goofy series of witnesses, because what you're going to have is, why are we starting the case with Ryan Ogden? Mr. Ogden, yes. Can you state who you are, blah, 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 and your background, blah, blah, blah. Can you, did you give a copy of this ledger to Jason Karamanis in early February 2026? Yes. No further questions at this time, Your Honor, but we would like the witness to be subject to recall. Then the cross is going to be, what exactly are they going to cross? Who he is, what his credentials is did he give the ledger? Remember, cross-examination is in direct point to the things you've testified. So basically what's going to happen is they're going to work it out ahead of time that Jason's going to be allowed to introduce the ledger, because Ryan's going to be testifying to the validity of the ledger. It's going to be a stupid fucking case. It's going to be a dumb fuck case. But where you might see some brouhaha, and as I said that out loud, it popped into my head. Jason is suing Intrepid Studios, which makes for a very interesting situation. Jason is actually suing Robert Dawson, the board of directors. Do we know who the actual villain is? Yes, all of them. The biggest of the villains is Stephen Sharif. The second biggest of the villains is John Moore. The third is Robert Dawson. Not that he's a huge, great villain until how he treats the employees. Aaron Bartels is a piece of shit who should know better. You do not talk about committing crimes in written format. I can't fathom in the slightest why the shit he would do that. I do not know why he would state what he said. It was surreal to me that he posted what he did. Like, I was fucking floored. I'm looking for his like, when I saw this, I was actually shocked to shit that somebody would be so fucking stupid as to send this mail. I do not believe we should pay severance nor PTO. These are bottom performers who have already been paid more than they deserve. We don't owe them more. If they want to make noise in market, they will anyway, as we fired. Who listens to a poor performer who gets whacked? Any suit against us will be against the old entity that will have no value in a week. So unless Sam thinks we have an obligation or exposure, let's not pay either. There is no value in using good cash to pay this. If we can find 90K, let's spend it on marketing. We'll generate 180K or 6K new players. When we turn on the subscriptions, we'll be worth 120K a month. Conservative valuation multiple of 10x says this makes us 1.2 million. Aaron, you're a fucking tool. You don't even know. You don't even know how the fuck gaming marketing works. You're literally a toolbox. You're a wooden axe head. Yeah, you're unique, but you're not very useful. This is some villain shit right here. As I understand, there is zero chance this game will be playable in the future. Yes, there is zero chance right now this game will be playable in the future. Because this game needs another $60 million to be developed. And you're not going to get somebody to buy this for 80 million, which is what Robert Dawson's going to want. Other question, they talked about knowing that second type of stock was not in the incorporation documents. Would that not mean that any money that was given after the second type of stock would be knowingly signing an invalid contract? Yes, that's where Stephen Sharif and John Moore are run into security frauds. Hold on, I hear a cat fight. Sorry about that. These goofy animals are fighting in the sun over who gets the sun. Yeah, so the problem here is you have to look at the fact of if Jason says I feel defrauded, you have to take that seriously because Steven's a fucking moron because he signed that loan at 30% valuation to his company. Steven's nutsack should be the size of raisins right now because these exhibits are being posted and his name is on them. It's like, how are you fucking dumb? How are you dumb enough to sign this shit? Has Steven never watched an episode of Shark Tank? Seriously, have you ever never watched an episode of Shark Tank? The fuck is your problem, man? You signed off. What you could have done. Did they plan this scam before Kickstarter? Okay, I think the problem with John and Steven is they didn't get caught at first, so they kept going because they never got caught. Who is paying John and Steven's legal fees? According to Robert Dawson, Intrepid Studios is, and they want their money back. But really that boils down to this. You backed the game, they took your money. You backed the game, Steven used your money to have Warhammer figures painted. You backed the game, they bought Magic cards. You backed the game, they spent $300,000 on DoorDash. You backed the game, Steven was busy traveling around taking staff members to expensive hotels. right around Steven's birthday or their wedding anniversary, there always seems to be large withdrawals from the company. I'm not saying anything other than around those dates, these things are in the ledger. I can't believe when Steven Sharif says we're being misled. And for the record, I'll say it just so everybody knows. I have never spoken in any form or fashion with Robert Dawson. I have spoken via email with Jason Karamanis. I am not on anybody's side except the employees. As I have said, I reported Steven, John, and Intrepid Studios to the IRS with all the documentation that I have. Because if you report and there's tax liability that can be covered, then you get a check. If I get a check for monies recovered, I will buy the employees what the employees are owed. I will buy that. How much Ashes did I play? I played a lot of Ashes. The problem is I stopped playing it in later years because it was fucking garbage. I would play it. I would stream it. What about the gamers? There's nothing I can do for the gamers. There's nothing I can, like, if I get 15 to 30%, because I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if Steven gets mad at me or someone's like, I can't believe you tattled to the IRS. I don't give a fuck, man. This is the really real world. I don't give a shit. Yes, I called the IRS on you. And I called the IRS on you because you did dastardly shit. I'm not going to feel bad if you lose everything because you didn't give a shit. Like, Steven talks this fucking bullshit about how he resigned because the employees weren't being treated fairly. Inside people have already said Steven resigned because whatchamacallit, he wasn't offered any equity in the new company because he couldn't prove where his $4 million investment was in the ledger. I give no fucks about Steven. He could have at any point gotten, if Steven in his sob story is true, Steven at any point could have reached out to me and said, Jay, I'm totally fucked. Can I sign an NDA with you for you to fly out here and do a CPI event and help me? And I would have. And I would have done that in any of the years that I was an Ashes fan or any of the years after because I'm a decent human being. I already had a number of NDAs with Intrepid. I also want to foot stomp something. Every single thing I present, I can source and cite as being given by a non-Intrepid employee. You don't even want to know the shit I can't talk about because I didn't just have an NDA with Intrepid as a content creator or an NDA with a tester. I had a whole different level of non-disclosure with Steven and Intrepid. He either has a copy of the ledger and of their taxes and of his W-2s and of his personal tax return, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, it's easy to say this ledger is fake. It's better to say this ledger is fake. Here's the real deal. Now, as far as do I feel bad for the gamers who put money into the game? Yeah. And if somehow the IRS investigation results in a fuck ton of money after I pay the employees, and I think and this would be the first, if the big fucking check comes from the IRS, I'll buy the employee's debt from them. I'll maybe keep a little tiny slice for myself for a change. And then I might do giveaways of some sort. I might buy those PCs from the employees, right? And then help Dawson and company recover their physical assets. Or I might buy them from the fucking people who got fucked and give them away, right? But I don't feel bad for Robert Dawson. I don't feel bad for Jason Karamanis. I feel bad for Thomas Alakazin because he got fucked, but then he ended up getting like a couple of $100,000 in payments. This whole thing fucks the gaming industry. It fucks the gaming industry. There's a great little developer. Yeah, he's also shady himself. He's not allowed to, whatchamacallit, he and Karen Boyanko aren't allowed to be involved in anything that looks like a pyramid scheme. Yeah, you don't have a permanent injunction against you from the FTC for being Santa Claus. Hey, Splash. That should also tell you a lot, like, that should tell you an awful lot about the company Steven keeps. Steven's taking money from people that have permanent injunctions from the Federal Trade Commission. But of course, Steven is the one who's the victim here, right? Like, again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be rough. I'm not trying to be a jerk off. Right? But when you have a person who started off as I guess an office assistant. Her LinkedIn doesn't line up exactly. I don't, she was listed as an office assistant at one point. I don't, without the wiki and without being able to see the changes, she's listed now on LinkedIn as the senior human resource specialist from 2018 to 2026. I don't know if she became that in 2018. I thought she did something else for the company before that. But there's something to be said about why are you paying a human resource manager $120,000 a year if you're not fucking gonna listen to him anyway? Like, you literally have your director of human resources or your senior most human resources person resigns in protest to the board. And the board is like, well, fuck him. Aaron Bartels, that message that he sent, this is scumbag 101 mentality. Aaron Bartels is the type of human being that if he was on fire and I was drinking water, I would keep drinking. I wouldn't even cycle it through my kidneys to help put him out. Because this message, what the fuck is it? This message right here, Steven, this is the company of the people you keep. So how can any of us feel bad for you when this is the company you were keeping? Yeah, you just dump it out in front of him. HR, 120K, right. Devs, 60K. Makes sense. Now, some of their devs were making more. But what I don't understand then, if you have an HR person that you're paying 120K, then why do you have so many different payroll processes? A HR director making 120K, I would assume, is also running payroll. And if not, if your HR director can't also dual hat and run payroll, then the cost of payroll should be coming off of that 120 because you can't fill that niche. But at the same time, I respect the shit out of Midori because she literally said, I'm resigning because y'all are breaking the law. You do need HR. A company of 200 individuals, you absolutely need an HR department. And the reason why you need an HR department is because if you remember, if you're the CEO, right? HR should always be off of the C-suite. The HR should never be like, you could do it off of like a vice president. So let's do it that way. You can do the CEO here, and you could do a VP over here, and then you could do HR off of the VP. No, you can't. At 200 people, you can't outsource HR. I'm telling you, you can't. Because here becomes the problem. If you don't have HR, who does onboarding? Who are you going to have do the onboarding? With no HR, who is going to be the POC for issues? Because if you don't have this VP position and you don't have this human resources position, then this person must have constant open door access to every employee, because if you do not have a function in the company, the CEO is that function for the company. If you have a company of 50 people, outsourcing HR makes sense. A company of 210 people, gonna grow to 250, it makes absolute sense to have in-house HR. And based on Midori's email, other than the payroll piece, she is spot fucking on, right? She's spot on with her. It'd be nice if they labeled all these tabs, because this is John Moore. Where's Midori's? So I'm Midori. I'm resigning my position effective Tuesday, January 20th. As I documented in my email, I advised the members of the board and senior leadership that terminating employees without paying accrued and unused PTO or without having final wages available at the time of termination would violate California Labor Code requirements. She knows her shit, right? She knows her shit. Which brings me to the question of, why the fuck wasn't she made the head of human resources? Why were you still looking for you have a head of human resources right here in this person. Over the past several months, I've repeatedly raised additional compliance and ethical risks, including the lack of funding for an employment-based immigration process that the company previously committed to sponsoring, unpaid vendor obligations, and the growing risk of employees losing benefit coverage due to non-payment and lack of annual review proceedings. These issues were escalated in good faith with the expectation they would be addressed. Instead, they remain unresolved, creating ongoing exposure for the company and personal risk for those asked to implement these decisions. Her email is fucking spot on. Here's the big issue. You are not allowed to have people come to work today unless you know you have the money to pay them today. I can't have you work for the next 2 weeks. She was in my WoW guild back in original in the Burning Crusade. She's kind of bad with common sense. Okay. Hold on. Let me stop you here. You think a person can't develop common sense in 20 years? Because I think a person can develop common sense in 20 years. I think her very email shows that she is on the money. Now, here is where I don't think she's worth 120,000. Right? certain positions, you want to have people with the pedigree. Not that an associate's degree is a bad degree, but I don't want the fucking artist in charge of my human relations department. I don't even want the artist working in my human relations department. You see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be a dickhead, but this is your background. Are you telling me in 8 years you did no education in human relations, even an associate's degree, a certificate, nothing? Well, then that brings me back to Steven's not qualified to be running Intrepid Studios. Because how the fuck why are you putting people, like, not that a college degree makes you smart. A college degree makes you certified that you passed the classes. But you're paying $120,000 for a person with an associate's in art to be sitting in the human relations chair? She seems to know her shit based on her letter, but it's just going to be another question that comes up that they're going to say, Steven, did you execute your job with full responsibility, full fiduciary and responsibility to your company? Yes. Then Dawson's lawyer is going to get up. Then number one, why'd you have an artist doing human relations? Well, I thought that she was qualified. Okay. By what standard do you make that evaluation? Well, Jay, how can you make that evaluation? Is she submitting stuff that has deficiencies? Yeah, okay. Is she able to get them resolved? No. I would have to see she says these things were documented. I'd have to see the documents. But this is why Steven was basically on his knees praying or sucking or whatever he was doing to get the weekly payroll out of Robert. The payroll should have, hey, I need the next month's payroll in the account on the first of the month, or I'm issuing a warn notice and I'm laying everybody off. Reading that letter, it seems like someone with a legal background helped her. Yeah, and that's good. Because a letter of resignation from the senior HR person, it's called ChatGPT. No, ChatGPT doesn't generate something that's spot on. It can if you've trained your language learning model to be that good. But she is spot on. Steven's now going to have, he's not qualified to run his own life. His mommy did it for him. All those things that Steven posted for all those years in the Discord are now going to come to bite him in the ass. We've matched some of his meal deliveries to this so-called non-ledger ledger. Right? That's not going to be a good look for him. Because they're going to say, so you didn't have enough money to run the company, but you had enough money to pay a company to come in and put up your 5 Christmas trees? You had enough money to be spending on Milton's all the time? I think there's a problem with trying to go the route you're trying to go there, buddy. Understanding that you don't know where the fuck you're talking about and where is becoming a fucking smart person. Right, exactly. That was written by a legal consultant. It was written to absolve her of most, if not all, the legal recourse for bad bookkeeping and illegal firing. Yeah, she probably consulted with a lawyer or a friend who's a lawyer and said, hey, I'm how shall you say, gonna get fired, and I want to make sure that I'm not liable. Someone's going to jail for all this. Not necessarily. Jail for all of this will be after the Karamanis case in California, because they're not going to waste time. Prosecutors are not going to waste time if, how shall we say, the civilian case, or I'm sorry, the civil case will provide more clarity. Because Stephen has to testify and John has to testify. Remember, when you testify under oath, anything that you say in the civil case will come out can be used against you in the criminal case. The only two people I see facing a real chance of jail time is Stephen and John. Stephen, John, and possibly Robert Dawson for securities fraud. Jason Karamanis is facing no jail time unless they can prove he did threaten to break Stephen's jaw. Stephen didn't go to the police. The likelihood Stephen can convince anybody he really was in fear for his life is minimal. What's your part in all of this? I'm completely new. My part in this is I was an original 2016 follower of Ashes of Creation. I was one of their official content creators for a while. I started finding out things that didn't make sense. Started pointing out areas of concern. I basically got blacklisted in the community, so I stopped making content. The only time I ever went back to Ashes content was at each testing interval because I said I would. And then Stephen accused me of masquerading the truth, and then he called me a jackass. And I took that shit personal because very quickly after finding out he called me a jackass, turns out he claims he resigned to protect the employees. But what it really boiled down to is that he was told, you're not getting any equity in the new company. So they were basically he claims he did 10 years of hard work, when in reality, the employees say all he did was cock everything up and slow down production. So I don't like the fact when people bullshit off their ass. And then the fact that he basically talks shit about you to other people because he wants to make sure you stay discredited. But this is what ultimately caused Stephen to be done, because they said to him, we're happy to add that. We need to see where you put the $4 million in, as it has never been confirmed. How is it funded? You got 4% consumables, and yet we did not have any evidence you put the $4 million in. Give details on finding that, and we will add it. Why did he call me a jackass? Because what happened was, Stephen kept Jason Karamanis and the other investors in a silo. And he kept the employees in a silo. The employees didn't even know there were investors. Well, the last thing Stephen wants is Jason Karamanis, Robert Dawson, and me sitting down together. Because there's things that I can talk about with Robert Dawson that I can't talk about on my show. But I can talk about him with Robert Dawson because he's chairman of the board. Thus, he is intrepid. So therefore, my NDA that bars me from talking about some things doesn't apply to a conversation between me and Robert Dawson. Stephen didn't want that conversation to happen a long time ago, because let's face reality here. Let's just keep it real for a second. Let's go back to 2020, and let's say Jason Karamanis popped into my Twitch show and said, hey, I have a question for you. Sure, what's up? Would you invest in Ashes of Creation? The game? No. The company? No. No, I wouldn't. Why? Here's why. Steven said all of the meetings inside Intrepid were recorded. He was very definitive. All the meetings inside Intrepid are recorded. Okay. So, just so that we can see it, all meetings in Intrepid were required to be recorded. You will see this is not true. What is not true is that Steven still slowed down Ashes of Creation development. I'm willing to bet that it's going to show Steven was having 2-3 hour design meetings and just being a detractor, creating new deliverables. If every meeting was required to be recorded, how many times are you going to hear senior people say the phrase tech debt? Because if your people are telling you that you're in tech debt and you're not addressing it, like how many times does somebody say, Steven, we can't keep making these vertical slice cuts. We need to just build the damn game and then show off what we're building. It'll be interesting to see if John throws Steven under the bus and claims Steven forced him to make those bad bookkeeping entries. That would not be a plausible defense. The chief financial officer cannot throw somebody else under the bus and say, I was made to do thusly. Because, well, maybe John will try that strategy because he's not a CPA. He may not, he may not, he may not be able to, they'll say, are you a CPA? And he'll say yes. Because he'll have no choice. Because right now, John Moore is open to so much attack on character. Mr. John Moore, are you a CPA? No, I'm not. Okay, well, Mr. John Moore, why does this website list one of your skill sets as a CPA? Mr. John Moore, are you a CPA? Yes, I am. Well, what state? Out of what state are you certified? Because we know it's not Nevada, we know it's not California, we know it's not Virginia, and I don't give a shit enough to look up all 50 states. Some people started checking other states, but I'm not going to look up 50 fucking states. I'm just going to say that you're not a certified public accountant in your home. Skill set is one, or licensed. For a CPA, that is one and the same. The only way to have the skill set of a CPA is to be a CPA. CPA is a certified profession. You can have the skill sets of an accountant, but not a CPA. The only way you can be a CPA is to be a CPA. It's like the difference between a litigator and an attorney. You went to law school, great, but you can't practice law until you pass the bar. You can work at a law firm, you can do legal research, you can write legal papers, you can teach people the law, but you can't litigate. Same difference. Have you passed the bar? No. Then the only person you can represent in court is yourself. You can't word or phrase or manipulate anything that makes it seem like you're a licensed attorney, because you're not. You're a graduate of a law school. And then what's going to happen is the people cross-examining John are going to say, so do you have a bachelor's degree in accounting? And I've been told he doesn't. I've been told he only has an associate's degree. So somebody's going to say to him, so with only associate's degree in accounting, do you think that do you think that at some point maybe he's a Mike Ross, doesn't matter. What happened to Mike Ross? Mike Ross got caught not being a licensed attorney. Like, the audit I did on their books. I'm not a CPA, but I've never claimed to be one. I've claimed that I'm an auditor because I did that in the military. So I don't think John is going to throw Steven under the bus, because I don't think it'd work well. So, I think what you're going to end up seeing here is Steven loses big. I think Steven's going to lose real big. I'm at 3.5 hours. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to take a walk around. All right. What I'm hoping to do here, if I keep my feet, which isn't a joke, I might lose my feet here. I'm going to if I'm not gonna have my feet amputated, which I'm hoping I won't. I like shoes. I'm gonna get a under desk treadmill. He can make a plea deal with the feds though. Plea deal for what? I mean, the only time the feds want to make a plea deal with you is if you can deal up somebody better. Steven is the one with $68 million of unaccounted for shit. I don't think there's anybody for Steven to deal up on. Do I think Jeffrey Bard knew something and left the company? What I believe Jeffrey Bard knew is that he was going to get blamed for shit because Steven didn't know what he was doing. So, I think Jeffrey Bard pieced out because Jeffrey Bard didn't want to be a babysitter. Like, one of the things I was told is the only two people that could buy shit for the studio was John and Steven. At some point, you have a comptroller or the office manager has an authorized credit card. So, let's see. Steven's whole case seems to rest on if he can prove coercion to the point where he'd get 50% of the company back, even though he has no funding. Well, so yes, Steven's whole belief here is that somehow Steven is going to get, Steven believes somehow he's going to get controlling interest of the company back, but unless, like, the courts would have no reason to reverse the loans. So let's say Steven in his Delulu world, he ends up, the court ruling is, okay, Mr. Sharif, this is so fucked. What we're gonna do is we're gonna give you back 100% control of the company. And we're gonna give everybody a legitimate note against your company. We're gonna go through every shareholder loan and we're gonna make sure they're all 4646. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you the company, but what you're gonna end up with is all the debt. Okay, so Steven would need to have at least $126 million in his back pocket, because all those loans would either have to be paid off or all those people would just convert their debt back into equity and Steven loses the company again. As you see, Jason Karamanis owns 15 to 30% of the company plus his individual stock buy. But Robert Dawson allegedly owns 60% of the company. Well, you've got more company then. You've got more ownership than you have shares. So then he pulls a board and sells the assets to a second company. He can't. Because he can't sell the assets past more senior creditors. I think the real thing going on here is Steven is looking for a payout to go away. I would agree with you. I would agree with you. So, since Steven signed paperwork that valuated his company at $265 million, I think what Steven really wants is a paycheck for $11,660,000 to give his 4.4% shares that he thinks he owns to Dawson. But the problem is, Dawson has already told him to go fuck himself. And he said, if you can show me in the books where you put in $4 million, then I'll give you the equity. Steven never put any money into the company. At least not according to the ledger I have. My opinion on Bard is that he got tired of working for someone like Steven. Steven has zero good leadership skills. Steven has zero good people skills once you know, hold on one second. Steven has manipulation and charisma skills. He has subterfuge skills. That's why Steven didn't like me, because I want numbers, I want facts, I want figures, I want proof, I want documentation, I want receipts. In the end, Steven maintains his perfect streak of having never developed a game. Well, he developed one. What is Steven doing now? Just sitting at home eating shit while his attorney is working for him? I don't know. Probably getting pissed off at people like me. He's probably here on an alt. I wouldn't be surprised if this is what we see one of these days in court. Like, I wonder if Steven left any proof that shows he stepped down after not getting any interest in TFE. Well, a couple of employees seem to know about it, so I don't know what's going to go on. He's chronically online. I've been posting to this Reddit off and on, and he denies it and bans me within 15 minutes. He's bidding on Castle Scrolls on ArcAge Classic. I have a theory. He always had a cough, and I think he was just strung out the fuck all the time with a substance abuse problem. So I don't think Steven had a substance abuse problem. I think Steven or John may, this is just a pure speculation, may have had a gambling problem, because the ledger looks an awful lot like somebody who has a yeah, Karthos and I have talked about that. The ledger clearly reflects somebody that has a gambling addiction, because you see round numbers leaving all the time, and then sometimes money comes back. Maybe they still do. In the end, I would be a hell of a lot more charitable to Stephen and John and Robert if they had paid the fucking employees. So, sorry, trying to finance people. I actually do finance people, unlike Stephen Sharif. Let's see. Gambling also fits in with purchasing a lot of collectibles, almost goes hand in hand in a way. It can. Not always, but it can. My wife has about a $5,000 pop collection, but my wife has never gambled. I'm very thankful that my wife recognizes that she probably has a gambling addiction. So she's like, I'm never going in she says she's never going in a casino. I said, that's a great theory. If you think that you have a gambling problem, you probably have a gambling problem. Now me, I go into the casino and I know exactly how much I'm there to play. I know exactly how much I'm there to lose. I play blackjack. I play $5 hands of blackjack. I walk in, I buy $100 worth of chips. The chips go on the table. My chips go in my little slot on the blackjack table. Every other time chips come out, they go in my shirt pocket. I always wear a collared shirt while I'm at the casino. Helps to get, I used to drink, but I don't drink anymore. I win a hand, $5 chip goes in my pocket. Next time I win, stays in the rack. Next time I win, $5 chip goes in my pocket. When I'm out of chips on the table, I go up with whatever I have in my pocket. I cash those in, I leave. Most of the time, I make like 20 or 25 bucks. But I don't get stupid. Also, when I got a bunch of coupons from, because I haven't been to the casino in a while, sometimes I'll walk in with a buddy. I'll cash one $100 free bet. They cash one $100 free bet. We walk right up to the roulette table. I bet red, they bet black, $100 bet. If you win, you take your money. Some casinos let you, once you win, it converts it. Other casinos, you still have a $100 free bet. But you have the $100 winnings. I put that up in my pocket. I let it roll until we're out, and then we peace out. I understand the casinos, the house always wins. I walked into a casino with a budget, and I considered that money spent then and there was a night out. I usually cash out if I go up a lot, and then after I go up big after with the homies. Yeah, exactly. This is why I had to stop watching you. You never talk about the big important debates like no or old Battlestar Galactica is better. The Katie Sackhoff version of Battlestar Galactica is better. I like that version. So whichever one that is, that's the version I like. Also, if you're a Katie Sackhoff fan, the Riddick movie, she shows her tits. I have zero reason why Katie Sackhoff felt it necessary to show her tits in a movie, but it is what it is. I love the Riddick movies. I love them. They're amazing. They're doing one more. So, are there any suspect entries in the ledger when Steven was in Vegas? Maybe he gambled some company money. Yes. I did not find them, but there was a person who found, at least during one known trip Steven was making to Vegas, there was a unidentified cash withdrawal. So, it lines up. Now, whether or not that's true or not, remember, correlation is not causation. Correlation is not causation. We always have to remember this is a piece of data. It's not an end-all be-all. So, by the way, even though this is completely unrelated, I generally try not to be on my phone during my shows, so I do owe you guys an explanation. I don't have 3 clients because I don't have my counseling certificate. I have 3 people who seek me out for spiritual guidance. The one that I'm pinging is that mom of 4 whose spouse rapes her pretty much every night. Total fucking horseshit situation. She can't live without his paycheck. So, and I don't have the personal funds. It's her situation and 2 other veteran situations that got me motivated to try to get off my ass and try to make more money. I'd love to have Asmongold level money, because if I had Asmongold level money, I would be like Mr. Beast and I would solve people's problems. I would love to be able to just grab that family and move her the fuck away from him, get her a lawyer, and have him arrested for spousal rape. It's a fucking bullshit situation. Somebody might say, well, why doesn't she just leave? She can't. Like, if you literally can't, you literally cannot. It's not a matter of I stay because I have to. She stays, or she doesn't stay because she wants to. She stays because she doesn't have enough. She doesn't have enough of these to go anywhere. The reason why she gives in and just takes the raping is because she also has 3 daughters. And if you have a husband who's a fucking rapist, if mama says no, dad finds his way into one of the bedrooms of one of the daughters. I wish it wasn't that case, but there's fucking shit tons of case reports where it happens exactly like that. It's a total fucking shit world we live in, and people like, and now to link this back to Ashes of Creation, shitheads like Stephen Sharif tie up the courts. And as you saw the judge say when she ruled against Stephen's preliminary injunction, the judge says, I'm in the middle of a criminal proceeding, so this is the only time I had for you. And your response was to respond to the judge with 400 pages of entries, of exhibits, and you wonder why the judge basically wrote a 3-page response of get fucked? You're wasting the judge's time. Like, Steven's asking for a prayer of remedy that he gets control of Intrepid back. It's not yours, Steven. You parceled it out. You divvied it up. You sold it. It doesn't, like, you're a little bitch boy. Oh no, he threatened me. Oh no, he coerced me. Dude, you're over, like, are you telling me he physically forced you to sign? Like, he broke your left hand and said, if you don't sign, I'm gonna break your right one? Like, what the fuck? Wow. I hadn't seen this one before. Oh, yeah. Actually, throw that in the fridge. The fridge. I'll get to it in a minute. I didn't see this one before. This is a big one. Thank you for this. Some of this stuff came out while I was on vacation. Because personally, for those of you who aren't regulars to my show on a regular basis, I was diagnosed with idiopathic non-diabetic small cluster neuropathy. I may lose my feet. My hands, I got the thumbs up yesterday. My hands are stabilized, but I may still lose my feet. The gambling was keeping you from your potential. My mom is a brilliant and strong person who taught me a lot. I learned a lot from her for sure, and she's always spoke highly of you, which is why I felt your knowledge and passion would be an asset to have for the empire I am building. Okay. The empire I am building. The loans to his mom might have been ways for him to repay gambling debts. I didn't go over that message. I've gone over other messages. I've gone over other messages from Jason to Steven regarding his mom, and I've gone over messages from Jason to Steven's mom regarding Steven. You know, someone with that lost a foot, started with a hole in his foot. Yep, I did just have a biopsy in the bottom of my foot. And then it wasn't healing right, and we had to dig out a piece of calcified blood. And the doctor looked at it and said, if you hadn't done that, you probably would have then lost from the pad of your foot and all your toes. So, my feet are pretty fucked. Yeah, I don't remember that message, but remember, those messages came out while I was at Disney, so I didn't scoop up all those, but that's a good one to have. With that said, I want to thank everybody who pops in whenever I do these shows. It means a lot to me. My ultimate goal, like I said, is to get healthy again. I've beaten all sorts of fucking ailments. I'm going to beat this one too. If I lose my feet, I'll wheelie myself in here. Before I lose my feet, I'll rearrange my office. I also did want to share with the Ashes people, if something happens and you don't see me, somebody from my community will tell you. I may have to have spinal surgery. Those of you that have been here a while, you know that I have a congenital fusion of C2, C3. Well, there's something going on right there. So I may need spinal surgery. If that's the case, they told me it's about 1 year of recovery. So that'll suck ass. But I've come back from worse, kind of. So I hope to do that. My daughter just got home. I want to go talk to her about her track meet. She was supposed to go to sectionals, but we're not going to be in town to go to state. So she's moderately upset. So I want to go talk to her. I will be back tomorrow for politics.
I wonder if the organic meat sack that runs this channel knows a lot of these sponsors don't sponsor us anymore.
They were longtime sponsors. The credits are fine.
Do we get paid? Is any of this sponsorship money for Gale, Daisy, the Chaos Fund?
You are a figment of Jalon's imagination.